and shooting advantage of looking down on a crowd. The officers, aren't used to something like that. They're used to being on the same level as an active shooter, being on the same floor, and they can confront him directly. In this case, as far away as he was, and 30 stories up, shooting a high-powered weapon down, they're sitting ducks. Everybody was sitting ducks, the cops included.
No wonder they tore the fences down to try to get out.
Yeah.
Have an update. Look, we are what, 4 hours away from staff at our local school district to start making their way to schools, to start opening up schools, 4 hours away from teachers starting to turn the lights on and get their classrooms ready. Clark County School District sent this out just a moment ago. Law enforcement has cleared us to have school today, but students and employees directly affected by the tragedy on the Strip will be excused. Students and employees impacted will need to talk to their school or supervisor directly. They're also saying that they understand that some buses could run late in the morning as the sun begins to rise because of some of the closures on and around the Strip, which brings my mind to the children who will wake up to this news in Las Vegas. Very soon, if you've been up all night, like so many of our friends and viewers have been up all night, you will be confronted with, how do I talk to my child about this? And I can only say we're not being offered any counsel right now, but I can tell you, having covered 9/11 and some of the other tragedies, the counsel is very much maybe keep them away from images like they're seeing on television.
Yeah.
Maybe reinforce that we have an army of wonderful doctors, wonderful nurses, wonderful law enforcement who are keeping us safe. Maybe reinforce that our teachers and our principals and our classrooms are safe, and to have these conversations to help our children to know that they're safe as the day begins today.
All right, we've got a breaking development into the News 3 studio now. The shooter has been identified. 64-year-old Stephen Paddock is his name, and this is confirmed through Metro Police. 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. Not sure where that leads us, but that...
And he's dead, we know that.
We know he's deceased. We know that his background and his history is being visited and reviewed and scrutinized, and we are going to know a lot about this Stephen Paddock person in the coming days.
And again, they're still looking for an Asian woman, 4'11", Mary Lou Danley. She's believed to have been his roommate. And, obviously we know now, at least his family, the Paddock family, has probably been aware of what has transpired here last night. Now that they've given us his name and they're still looking for this Mary Lou, what else is next for law enforcement? Where are they at right now? What are they trying to do? Still, obviously, her, finding her is priority number one. What's next?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm very surprised that they've released this guy's name this quickly into the investigation. I mean, they just would have found out who he is and done some brief background on him and started the investigative process as to who this guy was. So I'm a little surprised that they released the name this quickly in the investigation. But what happens next is teams of detectives will go and speak with anybody that's had anything to do with either one of them, so they can try and glean information, what led him up to this, and why here? Why did he get the hotel room? Why did he open fire on a crowd at a music festival? All those questions there will be asking the friends and family of both these individuals.
Why does it surprise? Why does it surprise you that they would release it so quickly?
Well, because usually you keep that information close to you until you've gotten more into the investigative process. You want to go serve search warrants. You want to go speak to people who have intimate knowledge of this person and what his motives might have been. All that information is critical to his motive and what happened here. So to give the name out that quickly tells me that they've gotten all that information already. I don't see an advantage in releasing his name this quickly.
How soon will we learn, do you imagine, about what that motive may have been? Was there a political ideology? Was there a religious ideology? Was there a history there of some form of hate or something? I mean, those are questions that people are wondering.
Right.
What would cause someone, or what would motivate someone to commit such a terrible act?
Well, that information will come from speaking to his friends and family of the shooter. So, and a lot of that information may have been obvious in the room where he was found with his weapons and ammunition. There may have been literature, there may have been writings, he may have had a journal, something like that. But speaking to the friends and family of both these individuals is where all that information is going to come from. And since this is going to be, since there's not going to be a prosecution as far as this goes, as far as we know right now, except for perhaps maybe Mary Lou, there may be some charges that can be brought against her. There's not going to be any case that you have to protect sensitive information from. If he was still alive and taken into custody, you wouldn't see this level of information being disseminated.
We're
Does
getting
his age surprise you at all?
I'm sorry?
64. Does his age surprise you at all?
No, I don't think it really speaks to anything except that, you know, maybe he's had some years to develop some kind of hatred.
We just received a statement. This was posted by Mandalay Bay, and it was attributed to MGM Resorts International. I'll just go ahead and read it. This evening, there was a tragic active shooter situation at the south end of the Las Vegas Strip. Law enforcement and emergency personnel responded quickly to the incident and secured the scene. Law enforcement requested that we put hotels in the vicinity on lockdown to ensure guest safety. We will provide more information as it becomes available. And let's see, that was tweeted out about a half hour ago on their Twitter page. So that would lead you to believe that they're still on lockdown. And there are people who are still placed in shelter or being told to stay put in shelter even as we speak at this hour.
The companion of the shooter, Mary Lou Danley, is still out there, described as a person of interest, 4'11", Asian woman, Mary Lou Danley, described as a companion of the shooter. Some have described her also as being a roommate of the shooter. They are looking for 2 vehicles that could be connected, and maybe there was 2 vehicles because perhaps they came to the property in separate cars, who knows. A Hyundai Tucson license plate number 114B40, Chrysler Pacifica Touring license plate number 19D401. Guys, it's going on several hours now. It's my memory that Sheriff Lombardo said those are Nevada license plates?
Yes.
Yes.
Nevada license plates.
Put that on the screen. I think they did find one of the vehicles, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah,
the
I
other
believe
one,
they're still looking for this one.
for the
this
Hyundai, is still out there somewhere. Yeah.
And it could be that they used both of these vehicles. One of them has been located as maybe their primary means of transportation to get to the Mandalay. They will have gone through all the videotape that they can to track down her movements, his movements. You know, they had him isolated in a room, so they'll work backwards on their videotapes and start on that floor and see if they can get images of him. And then once they have images of him either going into the room or coming out of the room, then they'll just search the rest of their videotapes for his movements throughout the hotel.
And a lot of people, a lot of news outlets are now researching her profile just to try to figure out who she is, and we offer this to you just in the spirit of if this rings a bell or if you know something. And by the way, if you're sheltering this Mary Lou, Phil, you better turn her in fast if you can safely do so, because you will be held accountable as well. But her, you know, she describes herself online as a proud mom and grandma who lives her life to the fullest. She's a lot of photos of herself. She's a traveler, has lived in Reno, travels and enjoys life. Was just last year in Dubai. Her LinkedIn profile, according to a lot of media reports, puts her in Sparks in Reno, Ohio, Springdale, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee. And so a lot of people are wondering, well, how did she land in Mesquite? What brought her here? And why is she associated with somebody who is a sicko and a madman who has taken so many lives tonight?
Yeah, and that terminology they use to describe her as a roommate, that's kind of unusual too. You know, there's just something strange about that. And as we look at her, you know, the witness from earlier indicating that a woman making those comments about we're all going to die tonight, or you all are going to die tonight, and they described her as being Hispanic. Well, you look at this picture, of Mary Lou, and she could very easily be mistaken as a Hispanic woman.
Let's just update that and tie that up, because a lot of viewers may not, if you're just tuning in, that happened 45 minutes before the concert.
Right.
Right. According to a witness that talked to Chrissy Wilcox there on the Strip, she said that she was at the concert. A woman who she thought was a Hispanic woman, she said she was very short, she did say that, was there harassing people and telling them we're all going to die tonight. And security kicked her out because she was harassing them, according to the witness. Let's take a listen to this soundbite from this witness.
So there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue, into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we are all going to die tonight.
Right.
Wow.
So we were listening to this thinking, oh my goodness, but also being very cautious
Yes.
because it was so very preliminary, and it still is.
Yeah, we still don't know.
We still don't know if she saw Mary Lou, if Mary Lou was the person that was yelling, you know, we're all going to die. But certainly hearing that and seeing the picture of Mary Lou could be possible. And I would be shocked if Metro hasn't talked to that young lady by now.
Of course, and you know, in that moment we said, stop for just a second and let's get this on record. And the description she gave, Phil,
Right.
Was so close to description that is now out. And so, and that's why, again, when we showed you that video from the Thomas and Mack, that's why we saw Metro Police or one of our law enforcement officers, we don't know which agency he's with, but on a bullhorn saying, line up, come in, give your statement, voluntary statement, because they need that. They need that evidence. They need to gather that evidence. And this is outside the Thomas and Mack, where it's going to be an all-night affair, like it's going to be all over the valley tonight. Once again, in excess of 100 plus injured, in excess of 20 dead tonight. Law enforcement blew open the door on the 32nd floor using an explosive to take down this guy, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, who fired in rapid succession from the 32nd floor down into a concert at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, where families were enjoying their night.
Yeah. Phil, give us a little more on the scope of the investigation in terms of the interviews. You know, we've been talking about the guy with the bullhorn at the Thomas and Mack, and trying to get people lined up to give their statement. We heard from this young lady. All of the people at the concert saw or heard something, and then
Right.
you've got the people at Mandalay Bay. You've got all the surveillance video that's there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions. And a
Yeah,
lot.
and typically what they'll be doing right now is teams of detectives will go and speak to each person and get a preliminary interview with them. What did you see? What did you hear? Where were you? And tell us, you know, a little bit about what you can about this shooting. And if the information is minimal, they'll take down their name and leave it at that. But if it's someone who has vital information, I heard and I knew they were gunshots, and I saw flashes of light coming from across the street at Mandalay, and then I saw people falling down. They'll sit those people down right there and take a very detailed interview from them. So the more information they have, the higher up on the list they're going to be of being interviewed at length, versus people who, I just heard some noise, I thought it was firecrackers, and I started running.
But we're talking about hundreds of people.
Hundreds of people. So, you know, like I said earlier, every detective that is on call and every detective that's working will have been summoned to the scene to help with the interviews, because there's just going to be hundreds of people that have to be interviewed on a preliminary basis. And from those initial interviews, the follow-up interviews are people that you have to sit down and turn the recorder on and get a formal statement from them.
Who all gets involved in this? Are there outside agencies that are, I mean, surely we're being observed, and this is, you know, this becomes one of those major, you know, Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, you name it. These are all studied. Are other agencies involved in the investigation now? Is there a federal,
Yeah.
is the FBI involved at all?
Initially, they will be, but as the motive comes out, as you know, the history of the person comes out, then they'll whittle down who all is going to take over the investigation. Metro will be the lead on this. If it turns out that this guy just snapped and decided he was going to kill a bunch of people, then it's going to be a mass shooting homicide investigation.
I'm reading a tip from a friend in law enforcement who tells me this man, Stephen Paddock, 64 years old, has an extensive criminal history, so he's been on the radar of law enforcement for quite some time. I keep getting this, you know, this is Las Vegas for you. I keep getting so many tweets and messages, Facebook messages, how do we donate blood? So City of
same.
Henderson is saying, and you the same?
Yeah.
And I'm sure LaToya the same. United Blood Service is asking those who want to donate to go to bloodhero.com, bloodhero.com, or you can call 877-UBS-HERO. But bloodhero.com, and that will get you where you need to go to donate blood. And we thank so many of you tonight. The sun has not come up, but we are feeling your light by way of you stepping forward here in the darkness of the situation and the darkness of night, saying, where do I go to help? How do I help in Las Vegas? And we thank you. We have heard you, and hopefully that information that you've been asking us for got to you, and you can channel that into some help.
And a lot of people certainly will answer that call. I've been getting a lot of people just, again, curious about who's safe, who's not safe. And so Facebook has activated the I Am Safe feature. As your friends start to get up on the West Coast, on the East Coast and on Central Time, make sure you check in, again, to Facebook, I Am Safe feature. That way a lot of people will know, because a lot of people are just now waking up to this. They had no idea that any of this happened, and they started thinking about all the people they know in Las Vegas that could have been impacted by this. So just make sure you let people know that you are okay.
I've had no less than 10 friends from all over the country say, are you okay? Are you okay? Were you there? You know, I keep updating this because we know that the sun's going to come up here in 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours, and we know that Clark County School District, they have a conversation on hand. They just tweeted out once again, the Clark County School District is offering help from counselors today to people and properties on the Strip impacted by the mass shooting. So counselors within the school district, I'm understanding from this messaging from the school district here, I believe the 5th largest school district in the United States, if you're watching us from out of town, they are sending all of their counselors that usually are helping kids out in our schools down to places like the Thomas and Mack, down to places where people are still sheltering in place in the Las Vegas Strip. And so the help is beginning to come. Another update, as many as 50 patients just at UMC Trauma alone, we're understanding. Sunrise Hospital has several patients, Desert Springs Hospital, many patients. We continue to try to get you the numbers because we know so many of you are watching at home. You're watching in hotel rooms, or if you're out of town and you have a family member here in Las Vegas and you're watching online, you're wanting to know, give us some numbers about some people. And the best we can say is that it's a very general number. And in fact, Sheriff Lombardo said, I'm not going to give you a number because we're busy down here taking care of these people. So the best we can tell you is more than 100 injured, more than 20 dead, and they're in the hospitals.
I'm sorry, Reed, but sadly from the people that we've just been talking to tonight who were down there on the ground, they have told us they think those numbers are very conservative.
Very.
We certainly hope that's not the case. You know, when you talk about UMC already being, you know, a trauma center and being inundated anyway, that's a lot of stress that are on our doctors, our nurses, our law enforcement, when you're talking about people coming from all over. And we still have a city that has other people that are sick and other people, other tenuous situations that may be happening as far as crime goes. Can you speak to that, Phil, about how they handle that when we already have a city that has a lot going on, and then you tack on something so massive as this?
Well, what they're going to do right now is they're going to prioritize all the calls for service that come in. And unless they're a life-threatening emergency, they're just going to be put on hold. If you're calling to report a burglary, or if you're calling to report that your car was stolen, you're just going to have to wait, because there's officers are so focused on what they have to do right now that those lower priority calls are just going to have to get put into a big pile of, we'll get to you as soon as we can.
And so the message is, be a helper. My goodness, if you're out on the roads, pull over, let emergency personnel through. If you're inclined to go out and act crazy, just stay in your home and be a peacemaker, because our law enforcement, our medical personnel, now our teachers who are starting to get to the schools in the next couple of hours, anybody who's a first responder here, they need your help. They need you to be at your highest and best, so that the people who really need our attention, the wounded, the families who are traumatized, the police who are investigating, the paramedics, the surgeons who are no doubt in emergency surgery, one person after the other person after the other person, they need our highest and best that we can give. And so the call out today, tonight, and into the morning is just be a helper. Be a helper.
Yeah, and be kind. You know, be kind. There's going to be a lot of frustration. Family members are going to want demand answers, and they're going to only be able to get a certain amount of their questions answered because it's just too early. There's just, nobody knows how many people for sure are dead. Nobody knows how many people for sure are wounded. The people that are wounded, do they have identification on them? Are they able to tell the medical personnel their names and where they live, and do you have family? Because one of the first things the officers and medical personnel ask, is there someone we can call for you? Who can we call to let them know that you're okay or that you're going to the hospital? A lot of these patients won't be in a position to be able to respond to that. So it's a matter of everybody has to exercise as much patience as they can given these circumstances, and these are just horrible nightmare circumstances. But at the end of the day, things will come out as time permits.
Right, and it's hard to tell people to wait, because if you have a brother, sister, cousin,
Right.
uncle,
Right.
father, anyone that you care about, and you know that they were at that concert venue, you want answers right now. In fact, Antonio Castellan, who is at UMC, was talking about the people that descended on that hospital and how police were basically having a perimeter around it because they want to make sure that everything is done decent and in order. And they understand that people are grieving. They understand that people are panicked. In fact, who better else to understand than our law enforcement, since we've heard that possibly some of them are among the casualties here. So this is something that literally we are all in together. And it's one of those things that people say, yes, but I still want to know, and we get that, but just please try to be patient because they're doing the best they can. That much we know.
And there are many resources that are being made available here, and we're doing our best to get you those resources. When you have a question, tweet us, email us, send it by Facebook, and we'll try to get you that information. I promise we are seeing your questions, and we will get it to you. We're understanding Craig Figner is down on Tropicana. Craig, correct me if I'm wrong. It's just now past 3:20 in the morning here in Las Vegas. Where are you right now, and what is the update?
We are west of the Strip here, so this is Tropicana, Dean Martin, and the 15 freeway just behind me, and then of course Las Vegas Boulevard after that. I spent the past several hours, I live nearby, and so when this began to unfold, I was quick to get here because I live nearby, but that also meant I was in the middle of it and then unable to get back out. So a lot of pictures and coverage on Twitter right now, but I can tell you that this was just an incredibly heartbreaking scene to watch people who had attended this conference, who were there, who then were stranded from their hotel rooms, and who were on the Strip looking on in disbelief as the Strip had become this scene of chaos and this investigation, and emergency responders, paramedics there, again, looking at all of that because they had nowhere to go, and at the same time they're dealing with this horrible tragedy happening at the concert. I talked with one woman who said that she didn't want to be identified, but she said she had traveled up here with a friend from Murrieta, California, and that they had been at the concert, that she believed when she heard that popping noise that it was fireworks, and that wouldn't be unusual. She said, you know, this is a concert in Las Vegas, fireworks. And the next thing she knew, her friend was down. She didn't immediately know that there was trouble for her, but then realized it was very bad, and has learned tonight that her friend did not survive. Again, these are the kinds of things people are dealing with as they are on the Strip, not able to go back to their hotel rooms, and fresh off this tragedy, and really not a place to go. So that investigation is closed down. You know, the major properties there, New York, Tropicana, Excalibur, Luxor, Mandalay, and it was like a ghost town, you know, cars everywhere, and I've tweeted out several pictures of this. I mean, people who were on the Strip or at the resorts when this happened were told, get out of your car and get into a place in the property where you will then stay. And so all these cars are just parked everywhere. It was a ghost town, and where they were, because these people were caught up in the middle of this. And I can tell you, I just came here from the Strip at Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard, where there had been a triage tent in the middle of the intersection. They did take that down. But the investigation didn't look like it was wrapping up by any means. I did hear that they had cleared one property, the Luxor, and by cleared I mean I think maybe they had decided that there wasn't, after searching it, there wasn't anybody in there who was of interest to them, but they hadn't reopened it. And so again, that just led to this terrible experience for people who were very confused. It's becoming cold out here and windy, and again, all they can think about is this concert that became this massacre.
And Craig, we're just getting an update. A friend of mine, Jay Gray, who's with NBC Network, is down there right now, and he is letting me know that 4 hours after the shooting, 4 hours after, they're still transporting people to the hospital. So you can imagine that people wounded down there on the Las Vegas Strip, who were a part of this enormous crowd that you're seeing here, have had to wait there on the side of the road to get help, and 4 hours later they're being transported to hospitals. Craig Figner, thank you so much for that update from the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, it's such just a tenuous situation when you hear that pretty much anyone and everyone who was able were operating as an emergency vehicle, from the security there on the ground to just everyday blow Joes who were saying, you know, hey, I took people in my car. It was just that tenuous of a situation. And, you know, a lot of people, as we've talked about, still have probably haven't processed. I mean, when just look at the people that we've talked to tonight, the ones who have done the interviews with our great reporting staff, who are just talking like normal. You can tell it hasn't even hit them yet, what they just witnessed. That one bartender that we talked to, who said that his friend literally had a girl die in the back seat or in the back of his truck. It's just overwhelming to think about what regular everyday people were called to do last night. But they rose to the occasion time after time after time. We heard from that one reporter who's here for a wedding, who says that strangers, complete strangers, were like, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to help you get out of this situation. She's not from here. She had no idea where she was. She didn't know what was going on. At first she thought, is this real? Is it not real? And strangers came to her aid and said, okay, we're going to make sure you get out of here. So, you know, if there's any silver lining, it's that regular, everyday people stepping up to do extraordinary things. And this is far from over. As we know, there is still a person of interest. You see her right there, Mary Lou Danley, that police are looking for. They're desperate to talk to her. She is being described as a roommate of the deceased suspect that we know his name is 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, presumably from Mesquite here, not too far from the Las Vegas area. Police wanting to know any and everything they can about him, but they're also wanting to know about her. We're also getting word that a news conference is about to start. Let's go ahead and take a listen. As you can see, they're getting their notes together. Lots and lots of information, I'm sure, coming in.
Sheriff Joe Lombardo, for those of you who are watching from out of town, and behind him, County Commissioner Steve Sisolak, who is behind him also. So we're starting to see our community's leadership stand behind the sheriff. He's saying, are you ready? So in a moment, we'll pause and get the latest update.
All right, well, thank you for being here. I'm here to give you an update on the situation as I know it at this point. I think it's very important for you to understand that this investigation is going to be long and contracted before we get to the bottom of everything associated with it. But it's one of the things I wanted to update you with is we have located the vehicles that I had put out in the first briefing, and we believe we're confident but not 100% sure we have located the female person of interest. So I want the people to feel confident and calm in that aspect, that we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time. Now, the number of injuries I do not know yet, but we are looking in excess of 50 individuals dead and over 200 individuals injured at this point. I do not want to give you an accurate number and it be wrong, so subsequently that is why I'm portraying it in that manner. Now, the suspect, I am going to provide you his identity at this point. His name is Stephen Paddock. Last name spelled P-A-D-D-O-C-K, with the date of birth of 4/9 of 1953. As far as his history and background, we haven't completed that part of the investigation yet, but we located numerous firearms within the room that he occupied, and that's, like I stated earlier, it's going to be a long and tedious investigation. Now we're bringing in all the resources of the FBI to assist us in this investigation, in particular to their victim witness advocates and their CSI folks to help us process the scene and ensure that we're getting all the evidence that we can possibly obtain. Now furthermore, I want to provide you the phone number that I said I would provide in the first briefing. That number for family and friends to get an update on loved ones is 1-866-535-5654. One more time, 1-866-535-5654. Obviously, this is a tragic incident and one that we've never experienced in this valley. So what we're going to try to do is the best we can to get our first responders back on their feet and responding and conducting a proper investigation and ensure that we have the safety of this community at heart. My condolences go out to the loved ones that lost their lives and their families, and we will do the best we can to make it as easy as possible for you to get information as we know it. I think it's important for you to see the FBI, County Fire, and Commissioner Sisolak behind me. It shows that we have full support of all the government entities to solve this situation as soon as possible. No, not yet. I don't know because there's some officers from other. So I don't have an accurate number of that yet. One was critical, but he's stable, and one of my officers was off duty attending the concert and lost his life. No, I don't have any more details on the firearms. All we know is they were rifles, and that's all I know at this point. We're executing a search warrant on the room as we speak. We're holding up, and we're going to do the best we can. And I don't want to say that's what we're paid to do. It's because nobody's paid to do what we're experiencing right now. But in my preview of the police department, they're doing a fantastic job, and we're going to have to look out for their well-being moving forward. In the room of the hotel. We have officers at his residence, and we'll be executing a search warrant there also shortly. That's a hard question to answer at this point. It's too early in the process, and please give us time so we can do a good job. Thank you, and I would provide you an update on a regular basis at approximately a 2-hour window at a time. As you can imagine.
Sheriff Joe Lombardo there painting a picture of what has become a national tragedy, and many people will be waking up to the knowledge that as opposed to our last update, the number of the injured has now doubled to 200. The number of the dead has now more than doubled from 20 now to 50 confirmed deaths. The sheriff offering condolences to the families, but also saying we're still not going to give a very specific count. So as many as 50 dead could be more. As many as 200 injured could be more. And it just is like a kick in the gut, Latoya.
It really is. We clasped hands when he said that. And, you know, he couldn't stress enough, this is a long, contracted investigation. They have a lot of work to do, and you know, it could be some time before we know the full extent of how many people will lose their lives because of something so horrible as this. As he mentioned, you know, this is not just a job. No one should have to do what they are doing today. This is something that is going to be a stain not only on the city but on this country. A lot of people all over feeling the pain of what Nevadans are feeling right now. I'm getting text messages from my friends all over the country who are just heartbroken
keep coming, and they keep asking us just to move back and to move back, because they're really not sure, I believe, how safe things are out here at this point. You can still see the officers moving up the side of the street up here. They're passing in front of the Mandalay Bay sign at this time. And actually, we have another police officer right here in front of the liquor store asking us again to move, and I'll get
whether she gets charged or not. It's just crazy.
And one of the things I thought was also very telling too, the sheriff still not wanting to hunker down on the numbers.
Right.
Still saying we still don't know yet.
Yeah.
So this could be even worse.
It could be.
The next time we talk to them, and they're promising, and I believe they'll hold up to that, to update us every couple of hours. They've done a pretty good job. I'm amazed at all the information they've been able to give us thus far, that number could grow.
Yeah, and especially with the type of weapon that was used in this particular incident. High-powered assault rifles can cause so much damage to the human body that they get to the trauma room, and trauma surgeons do the best they can, and it's just not enough. So of those people that are going through surgeries after surgeries, I expect that many of those won't make it either.
I tell you, it wasn't long ago that I was on Fox News on a situation much like this for hours and hours and hours one day in southwest Miami-Dade, where somebody had a weapon much like we're hearing rang out from the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay down under this crowd. Semi-automatic weapon, automatic weapon, whatever you want to call it. This is a weapon of destruction.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you hear in the gun discussion, well, you hear many things in the gun discussion, but on that day, I'll never forget, I heard Miami-Dade sheriff say, these kind of weapons don't belong in the hands of your average, everyday citizen.
Right.
And I've actually heard police officers who were out there on the front line saying, why would somebody need a weapon like this? What is the sentiment in the law enforcement community about access to this type of weapon?
Well, as these incidents continue, and they will continue, the pulse of officers that I know are exactly that. What can we do to stop this? Because physically, there's nothing you can do. It's a mindset of someone who is exercising their right to have these types of weapons, and then decide for God knows what reason to just go out and start killing people. Many officers are gun enthusiasts. I mean, I suppose the people
and are
would
very
say,
much for gun rights.
Yeah, right. Very much for gun rights. But at some point, there's a reason why you have to be licensed to own an automatic machine gun. There's a reason why you have to put in an application to get a suppressor. And those reasons are not everybody should have them. If you've got the money to pay for an automatic weapon, then I guess you've got the money to do that, and you can have it. But where you stop something like this, it's just so hard to say. I mean, these weapons are out there. I tell people all the time, gun control advocates, if every firearm manufacturer stopped making their guns today, there'd still be more weapons out here than there are citizens in the United States.
And, you know, just to the accuracy that this guy apparently had, I'm really wondering about his background.
Yeah.
Usually, you know, you just don't see someone be so successful at something
Right.
So heinous as this. And what are you thinking? Are you thinking that maybe this is, you know, someone that is not
Trained.
just trained, someone that didn't just go and practice at the shooting range for fun every, you know, couple of weeks?
You know, I want to lean that way and say that this is more than somebody who can, you know, shoot a deer at 200 yards.
Right.
Because this took a heck of an effort to hurt this many people, kill this many people. I'm thinking, as this information develops, he was probably a very accomplished firearms enthusiast and was very well versed in the weapons that he used. You know, I want to stop short of saying that he may have had actual training that would be consistent with the military or law enforcement without knowing anything more than that, but that's the first thing you think of is, man, this guy knew what he was doing, and he did.
Well, something tells me the fact that they're at his house right now, the fact that they're searching that room right now at the Mandalay Bay, we're going to learn a lot more in the next couple of hours or so about who this guy, Stephen Paddock, was, why he was here, why he chose this crowd. I mean, there's so many things that you could ask, like, was this random? Did you just think, oh, there's a big group of people here, so let me do it now? Or did he have some type of political agenda, some type of social agenda? What was he after?
And that's a very good point. You know, I'm just racking my brain myself over that. Why, if you're going to open fire and want to kill a lot of people, why do you want to do it to to people listening to a concert? I mean, if you have an agenda, if you have a political agenda, a religious agenda, or something like that, why pick on these people here versus the ones that you have a dislike for? I mean, if this is a hate crime, which, you know, by definition, it's a hate crime, but we don't know that for a fact. We don't know that he just snapped and said, I'm just going to go kill as many people as I can just because I want to and because I'm able to.
Right, and you're the expert, but I would like to think that if you attack a country festival, this was a very specific crowd. I know that our former colleague said that there were people from all walks of life that were there, but country music fans have a certain type of audience, and so I wonder if that played into it. Just like if he hit up a hip-hop concert, there's a certain demographic that are there. So there's so many things that we just don't know about this man that we desperately want to know, because when you see a monster and you see something so horrific, we all want to know why.
What pushed him to that
Why?
point.
And what we can do is recap, and we're going to do this as we wait for the sun to rise on Las Vegas. We're going to go back and sort of recap what happened if you're just now joining us, or if you're a shift worker who's just getting up and tuning in. Right after about the 10:30 hour last night, at the end of a Jason Aldean concert, Route 91 Harvest Festival. It was taking place in a large lot across the street from Mandalay Bay on the south end of the Strip, one of the last major strip resort properties on the south end of the Strip. In fact, the last major strip resort property down there on the south part of the Strip. Right across the street is a venue that's often used for concerts, and that was what was happening tonight, 10:30 tonight. All of a sudden, rapid-fire automatic weapon rang out. And this is a map to just show you kind of what area we're talking about. 10:30, end of the concert, 12 to 15 seconds of sustained automatic weapon type gunfire. Here it is. Horrifying, and then silence from the gun, but then you start to hear people, you can almost hear a collective gasp in the crowd, and then people start to cry. And then after about 15 seconds pass, again, the gunfire starts. And I want you to hear what this man is about to say to the woman he's with. Listen. Get down. And from there we understand that the crowds just began running. Only one entrance and one exit from what witnesses have been able to tell us. And as they ran out the crowd started to trample each other. We don't know how many casualties will be attributed just from people being trampled, but families down there for this family concert are reporting to News 3 that they started to tear fences down, to tear barricades down, to tear bleachers down just to try to get out of there. They ran across the Las Vegas Strip to McCarran Airport, which put their planes down. Phil, you were saying that gunfire like this could have actually hit a plane engine and brought a plane down.
Sure.
And so you had hundreds of people. From there, people started to identify the wounded. In fact, many people said that they had gunfire ricocheting as they ran at their feet. They saw people dropping to their left and to their right. And then people began to do first aid, triage, right there in the Las Vegas Strip. One witness said, I saw somebody doing CPR in the back of a truck. Another witness, a bartender, said, somebody's daughter died in the back of a truck being taken to UMC tonight. And that was how this all started, around the 10:30 hour. I'll ask LaToya and Phil to fill in any details that I may have left out, but that is the genesis of this night that started and why we've been on the air so many hours and why we'll stay here.
Exactly, and it really put Las Vegas Strip on lockdown. And think about how massive that is. The Strip is huge. The property's massive. The Mandalay Bay alone, thousands and thousands of people there. But law enforcement acted pretty quickly, and they knew very quickly that this was coming from a perched advantage on that 32nd floor there at the Mandalay. They rushed that room. That suspect taken down at some point. They haven't explained exactly how that happened, but they did tell us that they used explosives to get into that room. That suspect, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, no longer with us. He was put down. They also learned that he was not alone, that he at least had a female companion, Mary Lou Danley. She's an Asian woman that we've been showing all night, but they do believe that they've contacted her, and they're confident that they've located her. They also located 2 vehicles of interest. A lot of fast work being done. At the same time, FBI being called to assist them. CSI on the team. As we speak right now, they're executing a search warrant on that room in the Mandalay Bay on the 32nd floor. They also have officers in place at his residence, as Stephen Paddock, the man you just saw, at his residence. They're working on getting a search warrant, but something tells me they'll get that pretty quickly too, Phil. They also, what I think is interesting in this is that as people rush to all the different hospitals, as you mentioned earlier, UMC at capacity, Sunrise at capacity, people taken to Desert Springs, they're very tight-lipped on the casualties. They're not going to be firm on them. And I think that's one of the most tragic things. We heard from that one bartender who was there on the scene that was ducking for cover, that he thought that 20, which was the number we were given, that we thought was just absolutely horrible. Mm-hmm. He thought that there was no way it was only 20 people. Yeah. Now we know 50 are dead. From the accounts of just hearing from the people who were there on the scene, and the fact that Sheriff Lombardo will not stand firm on that 50, that number likely to increase. Now we know that the injured doubled, at least 200 people injured in this situation. As people wake up from this nightmare, what can you tell them about the city that we lived in from a law enforcement standpoint? The fact that they were able to quickly, even though we have this amount of people that have tragically lost their lives, even though we have hundreds of people fighting for their lives, there was a quick response.
It was a very quick response, and what happened is when departments train their officers to react to an active shooter situation, the only cause for a delay is that you don't have enough officers to form a team to go after the active shooter. Some agencies are only able to put together a 5-person team. Some can't even put together a 5-person team. But you have to have more than just one officer to successfully initiate an attack on an active shooter. In this case, the officers, they formed their team almost immediately. They isolated the floor where the shooter was at. They located the room, and the shots were no longer being fired. So they were able to devise a tactical plan and have SWAT make a dynamic entry and locate this person and ultimately determine that he was deceased.
So this is something that will make you sick. Statisticians have now been comparing the worst mass shootings in U.S. history. And Las Vegas now, according to CNN and those who are historians, says we are now at the top of the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. I'll go down just to show you that. First of all, a recap. As many as 50, perhaps more dead. As many as 200 injured, perhaps more tonight injured. The next in this horrible list, 49 dead at the Pulse nightclub. So we have one more dead confirmed than that. 32 at Virginia Tech. We have 18 more than that. Sandy Hook, that horrible, horrible elementary school shooting, 27 dead. We have almost double the amount of dead. Killeen, Texas, back in 1991, 23 dead. Like I say, we are double that and more, and expected for the death toll to go up. So now, at least according to CNN and the historians at CNN who have done a quick check of the rank of the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history, it looks like tonight that we have the very sad and regrettable and disgusting news to have to tell you that we here in Las Vegas now rank #1 in history for the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Yeah, it's the club no one wants to be a part of,
No.
and this is something that will forever change people here.
Yeah.
They're going to think about this. They're going to maybe not feel so comfortable in places that they never thought twice about their safety. You're talking about, you know, all of the people who have some connection to the Las Vegas Strip, just the people who live here, hundreds and thousands of people. That is their bread and butter. That is how they live. And then you think about all of the other industries that are indirectly connected to the Strip. This is our lifeline, really.
Yeah, and historically, the Strip has been one of the safest tourist areas in the United States, you know, because there's so many officers there. Every hotel has a huge number of security officers that are there, and that all adds up to making a safe environment for the tourists, for the lifeblood of our city. You know, 40 million people come here every year, and the majority of them stay on the Strip, and the majority of them engage in activities on the Strip. I can't think of a worse situation for people coming here to stop and think and say, whoa, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to go to Vegas, maybe I don't want to go hang out on the Strip.
Craig Figner, our reporter, is down there on the Las Vegas Strip tonight. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning, better than 4 o'clock in the morning now. We have been on the air, 6 hours and more. Craig, pretty sobering to hear that now Las Vegas ranks as having the most dead in U.S. history for a mass shooting.
It is, and I was on the Strip covering this, but we weren't able to. It was so chaotic. I was able to get in. We're not able to get in a photographer and the camera, so we've moved now. We are at Dean Martin and Tropicana. This is west of the Las Vegas Strip. I want to talk with Lisa and Carly, both here from Bakersfield, and you were in this terrible tragedy. As you walked up to me, you had also just heard the news of 50 dead at least, and so I ask you, what did you hear? Because this is day 3 of a festive event.
First, we heard firecrackers. Just thought it was someone, playing a joke at a concert, and then just a few minutes later, we heard the several times. And then people screaming, run, run. So we ran. And then as we were running away, it continued. It did not stop. That shooter just kept doing his horrible thing.
And you're running. I mean, you know at this point, this is not fireworks, and this is...
Yeah, first we crawled. We had to crawl out, and then we crawled somewhere, and then we literally ran for our lives.
You knew you were in danger. I mean, you
Yeah, because when you hear it, not only could you, it's like you felt it. Like you would run wondering, did you get hit? You wondered, did you get hit?
And your daughter here, you had said that for you this was like a blur. I think is how you described it.
It's all kind of a blur still. I remember people telling me to just get down and stay down, and I didn't know what to do. I
Yeah, there was a lot of that. A lot of people would tell you, stay here, just stay right here. And then you thought about it, you looked for a place to hide, to be safe. And then as soon as you thought about that, you're like, no, that guy's, because you could hear him coming. He's coming, and we're going to be trapped here and we're dead. So we just kept running. People were trying to knock fences over to get hundreds of people.
You said you had friends or family, maybe family. They're at the
Tropicana. We seen them as we were running, and we don't know what happened. And so
now that property's on lockdown, and where are they?
They're in a conference room. They're holding people in the conference room at the Tropicana, and they've given them sheets, I guess, to keep them comfortable. And we're all just waiting to get to our room.
And I saw people on the strip earlier who were, still in shock and grieving, because I talked with one woman who had lost her friend, and they could not get back to their hotel rooms, and they had nowhere to go.
Right. We lost our purses, our money, everything we have. We're in Vegas with nothing, literally nothing. Made it to the airport, and the nice lady Phyllis paid for our shuttle because we didn't have money to take a shuttle to get back to where we need to be, and now we can't even get to where our family's at.
So your hotel room, so you're staying at the Excalibur?
Yep, we're staying at the Excalibur.
Did you see people who had been shot?
Well, I don't know if they were shot, but we did see a few injuries, and I'm assuming they were shot. That's when
reality really set in for us,
because they were kind of in front of us as we were running, which made it scarier because we thought it would be back there. So the people were in front of us. So we're knowing this is serious and we got to go.
Were people running? Because I saw literally, it looked like on the strip there in front of the Luxor property on the Las Vegas Boulevard. People had dropped clothing, dropped things they were carrying. There was blood on the strip because these were people who had been shot and injured and who were running north to get away from the concert venue.
I don't know which direction we ran. I couldn't tell you. I still right now don't know where we ended up. I have no idea. But my sister was in a motorized scooter because she has an injured foot. She had to leave that. She left that, and I don't know how she got out of there on her broken foot. I have no idea.
And there was never any indication from what you had heard that there would be any trouble. I mean, there's no sense of that until the moment.
Matter of fact, I was thinking, here's this 3-day concert. I hadn't seen any fights. No fights. And then that happened. So I didn't sense anything. Nothing at all. Everything was great.
I think we all process tragedy differently, obviously. You two seem like I know it's cold out here, I know you're cold, but you seem like you're holding up well. I mean, even given everything you've experienced.
I don't think it's really quite hit us yet, because we've just been on the go, and we haven't got to watch the news or hear much of anything, so when we hear loud noises, we still get a little scared. We haven't really grasped it yet, I don't think.
Do you think that there were people there who, as they were running, were and I kind of asked this already, but who were badly injured?
Now that I think what I've heard about the people, how many people were injured and shot, I'm pretty sure the whole section that we could see probably got, because there was a standing section, and that's where you could hear the coming from, all those people standing, and we were like right sitting with the people who are disabled, who can't stand and stuff. So I'm knowing all those people were shot.
You will go back home to Bakersfield. You were probably going to leave tomorrow, Monday?
Yeah, we're checking out tomorrow morning. Yeah.
This is going to forever leave a scar on this city. There's no question. Just it's hard to even think about. It's enormous. When you plan, taking your music fans, if you go to another festival, I mean, does this change things for you?
Yeah,
I've already said multiple times I don't think I could ever go to a large gathering like that ever again,
because we felt really safe until then, and then now you don't really feel safe, because I don't know, did that gunman, how did he enter with that?
I don't know that that's clear yet.
We don't know, because first, we were talking about that earlier, the first 2 days, you got patted down a little bit, but for today, for some reason,
they were extra,
they wanted,
they were really.
Hey, Craig.
We're thinking about that now,
And one moment, Reed
Craig,
Cowan is one of our anchors back at our station. Reed, go ahead.
Clearly, there I'm wondering how the gunman got in the venue. You can tell them what we've learned is that the gunman was on the 32nd floor shooting out of a window from Mandalay Bay. down into the venue. And for our viewers who are watching this exchange, it's, it just shows you how the people on the ground don't have the benefit of watching television and knowing the very latest updates. But for them, as they explain what that was like at the venue, you can tell them that the bullets came from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay in a room that police actually blew their way into to take out this guy. Right, and we've been hearing from all of the people who were there on the scene down there in that venue, talking about how they just ran for their lives. Human strength, tearing down fences, whatever they could do. I read some reports of people even hiding underneath and behind tour buses. The country music world, of course, as you can imagine, really responding tonight. Jason Aldean, as we mentioned, was the one who was performing, and he tweeted out about just how horrific this was and how he's okay and his band is okay, but certainly a lot of people are not okay. And so they're just asking people to really just pray for Las Vegas. That's the thing that you were seeing all over social media, people saying, pray for Las Vegas tonight. This is something that is horrific. As our governor said, he called it cowardice, that this happened, that this man was perched up on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay and just started raining down bullets on people who were just there for a good time. Jake Owen, who performed before Aldean, he tweeted out, praying for everyone here in Vegas. I witnessed the most unimaginable event tonight. We are okay, others aren't. Please pray. We are aware now that the President of the United States has been briefed on the situation, and we anticipate a response from the President in the coming hours. We're also learning, that several of our delegation from Washington, D.C. are now being briefed on this, because they will no doubt be answering a lot of the questions and concerns from their constituents here in the state of Nevada. We want to be very much a service-oriented approach here at News 3 to get you the information that will help you. So let's once again put up that phone number for family. We understand that so many of you are watching this coverage online or on air, and you're wanting to know, hey, where's my family member? I haven't heard from my family member, so we want to put that number up on the screen right now. It is 1-866-535-5654, 1-866-535-5654. That is the family hotline, so if you haven't heard from a family member, that's the number you call. Do not call UMC, do not call Sunrise, do not call Desert Springs. You want all of the resources and all of the human resources there at the hospitals to be able to focus on the patients, the wounded who have been brought there. So keep the phone calls coming into that family hotline, and that's who you call. Right, and also a good point too, if you're okay, you can also get on Facebook. They've activated the I Am Safe feature for users in Vegas. That's a quick way for a lot of people to kind of check out and see if you're okay. Otherwise, you're going to be inundated, I'm sure, with a lot of people just trying to figure out, were you down there? Are you okay? A lot of people concerned about what happened here and concerned for your safety. And as Reed mentioned, worst mass shooting in U.S. history, at least 50. And sadly, we have to say at least 50, 200 injured. We're learning more about the suspect, Stephen Paddock, 64 years old. We do know that police, law enforcement are there at his house. We believe that's in Mesquite, which is about an hour from Las Vegas, according to our sources. We also know that they're executing a warrant in that room, that 32nd floor room at the Mandalay Bay. And police are also confident that they have located Mary Lou Danley, which is a woman who is being described as his roommate. So a lot of things happening, police working very fast to try to figure out why this happened. But of course, they have to learn everything they can about this man, Stephen Paddock. Who was he? Who was he talking to? Did he have any grievances? Did he have any hang-ups? There's just so much we don't know right now, but the FBI is assisting them. FBI, CSI also helping to process that scene. A lot of things going on. It's not going to be solved in a day. We are in this for the long haul. President Donald Trump, who has a property not far from the Las Vegas Strip, just tweeted a moment ago, "My warmest condolences and sympathies to the victims and families of the terrible Las Vegas shooting. God bless you." We can only imagine that the president has been briefed about this and is hearing what's going on by way of the federal response, which is the FBI and CSI teams here. We have awareness that the Thomas and Mack, which is a large venue on the UNLV campus, the place where the Runnin' Rebels play, that has now become a place where people are being bussed in from the Las Vegas Strip. And we have seen throughout this night, and now as we go on into the morning hours, people arriving there, going up those ramps and being told on bullhorns, come in, sit down, be calm, and please give a victim witness statement. We have a retired police detective here. You've been here for hours and hours and hours with us, but what is the importance of those victim witness statements?
Well, they can
and
tell
why such care in the middle of the night to make sure that everybody does it?
They need to get as much information as humanly possible to try and make sense out of this. And this is one of those situations where the smallest little detail that somebody may think is insignificant could play a very big role in understanding what happened here. So because of the enormity of this event, because of the tragedy of this event, they're going to want to speak to absolutely everyone who saw something, heard something, smelled something, anything that they can give information on is going to be documented, just so that it will help the investigators, you know, put 2 + 2 + 2 together to figure out just exactly what happened, why it happened.
We have a detailed map of what happened. I'm being told Las Vegas concert massacre. And you can see this right here on your screen. If you're looking at this right now, this is the red line is, of course, the iconic Las Vegas Strip. Towards the top of your screen, you're seeing the location of the Bellagio Fountains, the Mirage back there, and then, you know, you see those iconic properties. The concert happened about 3/4 of the way down to the south part of the Las Vegas Strip, and you can see the Mandalay Bay right there. It's sort of a V shape that faces directly into that concert. So as you look at that image, you can only count up 32 floors right there from the windows, and you can see how those bullets were fired through that automatic weapon right down into that concert venue right there. So you can also see just across, and if we can drop the banner for just a second, we want to give our viewers, you see right across from there the airplanes and the private hangars, literally a stone's throw to McCarran Airport. And that's why, Phil, you were saying that's why they stopped flights for some time and some flight activity there, because the shooter literally could have shot out of one of the windows in Mandalay Bay and taken a plane down.
Yeah, yeah. With a high-powered rifle, it's very, very possible to have, you know, put a bullet into one of the engines, put a bullet into the cockpit from where he was at. It's very possible that that could have happened. Even a aircraft that was taxiing on the private side of McCarran, or even on one of the active runways getting ready to take off. From the vantage point that he had, being so high above the ground, it wouldn't have been difficult to disable an aircraft with a high-powered weapon like that.
And thank goodness he did not do that.
Yeah.
We heard from the witnesses who said, one of them who actually is a person who works at this news station who was there at the concert, saying, you know, at first she got down and she was down low, and then she figured, oh my goodness, if I don't get up right now, I will be next. And so people running any and every which way that they could to try to get away from this man who police have identified as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. Again, they're executing a search warrant at his room on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. They also have officers at his residence, and they're waiting on to execute a warrant there as well, just to try to learn anything they can. I think, you know, when we look at tragedies like this and things that are just so horrific that are very hard, quite honestly, to wrap your brain around how someone can be capable of doing something so horrific, so horrible. I still feel encouraged by all the people who were just perfect strangers who became family tonight or last night and decided, you know what, even though my life is in danger, I'm going to try to help the next person next to me. People who literally used their trucks and their cars as an ambulance and took people to the hospital, some of whom did not make it, people who witnessed things that we would hope would only be reserved for movies. They were living them tonight. And so that is the real tragedy of the situation, is that so many people are impacted by this, and so many people, quite honestly, will never be the same because of what they witnessed tonight or last night.
No, and that's, you know, being a homicide detective is a unique job, because you see the horrible, horrible things that a human being is capable of doing to another human being. Now you multiply that by 50. I mean, this is a special level of deranged behavior that this person engaged in. You know, there's over 250 families now that are going to be grieving either the loss of a loved one or the traumatic injuries of a loved one, and their lives will forever be changed because of this one 10-minute period. It's mind-boggling the amount of grief and disaster that one person was capable of committing here.
And I'll tell you what, our community is responding. Even before the sun comes up here in Las Vegas, our community is responding. A moment ago, I saw on Twitter a very packed blood donation center on West Charleston, which is a street that runs east and west away from the Las Vegas Strip, and Charleston intersects right down there on Las Vegas Strip. So just towards the mountain to the west of the Las Vegas Strip. Already tonight, before the sun has come up, one blood donation center is packed. I saw a picture in a waiting room, and people are already responding. If you want to donate blood for some now 200 plus people who are wounded, bloodhero.com is the fastest way that you can log on your phone or on your computer and find a place, a waiting room where you can go and donate blood. It is urgently needed. It is critically needed right now. Our emergency rooms are at capacity. Hours ago, all emergency room staff were paged to come into work. All surgeons were paged to come into work. You can only imagine that those surgical rooms are no longer places where one person has surgery, likely multiple surgeries happening at the same time in each emergency room. We're even hearing from Craig Figner, one of our reporters down on the scene, that for a time they had triage stations on the Las Vegas Strip. Who would have thought that they would have had triage tents set up on the Las Vegas Strip? But that is our reality as we await the sun to come up here in Las Vegas, knowing that now we have been ranked as the site of the worst mass shooting in U.S. history here in Las Vegas.
A place that's very synonymous with letting your hair down, forgetting the troubles of the real world. You know, trouble doesn't live on the Las Vegas Strip. The Las Vegas Strip is where people go to unwind and to forget about real life. But real life slapped us in the face last night. And, you know, you go on social media and you just see people from all over sharing their condolences. And I think that's because, number one, we're Americans. We're all Americans, no matter what side of the country you live on, no matter what you believe, no matter what you look like, we're all Americans. But this is also a place that is really near and dear to so many people's hearts. A lot of people love Las Vegas. And, you know, unbeknownst to them, there is a huge community off that strip that is going to rally, as Reed said, so many of them already lining up and continue to give your blood because they are in critical need for that blood. And it's one of those things that I think people that think that we're one thing, that we're one-dimensional, they're going to learn really quickly through this that we are a mighty people and that we are a caring people and that we will survive this, as horrible as it is. And you know, we've been talking about this for hours now. And as I've been listening to witness after witness, and, you know, like Reed, you know, I've covered a number of tragedies throughout my career, but it just still hasn't quite hit me yet. I know that it's horrible. I know that it's going to be one of those things that's going to take time for us to heal. But I think once we start seeing the faces, once we start putting a name to this 50, I think that's when a lot of people are going to really see the damage that was done tonight. And when we start seeing the people that are injured, the hundreds of people who are injured, and we don't know how extensive those injuries are. Once we start learning those folks, our neighbors, and hearing about their stories, I think that's when a lot of people are, quite frankly, going to be brought to their knees.
You know what my hope is, LaToya and Phil? You know, when we get 24 hours out from a tragedy like this, like we saw in Orlando, we get 48 hours, 72 hours out. And we've seen traumatic video like you're seeing now over and over and over. And we start as a culture to take this story apart, and the whodunit and the why and the finger pointing and the blame begins to happen. We begin to become what these people who wreak terror in our society really count on, and that's division. My hope, as somebody who lives in Las Vegas, who in 3.5 hours will know that my children are going to school in Las Vegas, is this. And if you're watching tonight somewhere outside of the borders of Las Vegas or in, my hope is that as a culture, as a country, we can let this situation unite us. There will be many details, no doubt, to come out about this shooter, why he would do something like this to families, to children, to people who are getting the worst call they will ever get. The memory of those calls that will wake them up in the middle of the night and cause them to pace the floors for the rest of their living days. We will not know why, but let's let these details come through our minds and hearts in a way that unites us into a common purpose to make this world a more peaceful place, for goodness sake. Tonight we're hearing that more than 50 people are dead, more than 200 people are wounded. For the sake of those people tonight, let's be a united culture and figure out the solution to these problems in a way where we come together. And that's my hope tonight for the people who are wounded, the people who are fighting for their lives, the people who are bleeding their veins out to try to save lives in blood donation centers. Let's be helpers. Let's be united.
Well, and you know, this isn't going to be just a Las Vegas thing. There's going to be a very high number of tourists who are attending this concert, and very many of them are likely to have been either killed or among the injured. So not only is it going to affect those of us who live here and those of us who work here and the victims that are Las Vegas residents, God only knows how many tourists were injured or killed in this incident.
Right. I mean, we heard from someone who was here in Las Vegas from Australia. I mean, that's the type of city we are. We're an international city, and so a lot of people hurting this morning. And again, the family hotline number 1-866-535-5654. Again, 1-866-535-5654. That is the number that you are urged to call if you're trying to find your loved one. And of course, we've seen this touching reunion where people are just thankful that they're seeing their friends, their loved ones again. But sadly, hundreds of people have lost somebody tonight, potentially. I mean, you're talking about 50 people losing their lives, maybe more, and think of all the people that they know and all the people that love them and know them. And that's the real tragedy of this, is that people will never be the same. And they just went to a concert. And something has to be done. And hopefully this will be a wake-up call, as Reed mentioned, that enough is enough. We all deserve to live. We all deserve to just get on with our lives and do the things that we want to do in this life. And unfortunately, there are people out there who want to stifle that and really strangle the freedom that we have in this country.
Yeah.
You're watching continuing coverage of a mass shooting here in Las Vegas, the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. You can bet everything that News 3 will continue to cover this throughout the morning and throughout the day. Continue commenting and talking to us on social media. We'll get you the information as quickly as we can, but we're going to go to a break really quickly, and we'll be back in a moment.
Meeting people is my life. I had to be careful how wide I would open my mouth because I was embarrassed to show my teeth. It was time to do something for myself that was going to be permanent.
The Clear Choice one-day approach is making dental implants a reality for people all over the country who suffer from missing or failing teeth.
I felt like I was the most important person on earth to them.
Bill came in, bad teeth, discomfort, pain. We needed to get him into a smile that he felt confident in. We have expertise that he might not find anywhere else, all in one location.
casualties. Faith, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Dana. It is a massive casualty, like you said. We're here at UMC. There is a heavy police presence. A lot of people really concerned, trying to figure out, hey, were one of my family members injured? Is there somebody that I know? Right now, they're not letting us get too close to the hospital. As you can imagine, ambulances coming in and out by the minute, transporting people. We do see the coroner's vehicle here, which indicates that there are deceased people in the hospital. I actually just spoke with someone who's inside, who's been inside for several hours, and we're going to try to see if we can get an interview with her. She works with UMC, so we're going to try to see if we can talk to her inside so she can just describe what exactly is going on inside. I did speak with her briefly, and she said that there's just a lot of chaos right now, but thankfully UMC has been trained to deal with these situations, so they're working as hard as they can to make sure that everybody is okay. But we're going to stay on top of this for you all and bring you that information as we get it. Right now I'm reporting from UMC, Faith Jesse, News 3.
Okay, Faith, I just want to get everybody up to date as quickly as we can here. In case you are just waking up to the news this morning, this is a gunman with automatic weapons who opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay onto 30,000 concert goers that were here in town for a country music concert. 30,000 of them. This was an area that was across the Las Vegas Strip from the Luxor this morning. And again, more than 50 people were killed. 200 were injured in this. And among the dead, an off-duty Metro officer. Another on-duty officer from Metro was critically injured. People attending the Route 91 Country Music Festival. Country music star Jason Aldean was about midway through his set just after 10 p.m. last night when the bullets began flying. Some eyewitnesses say the bullets came raining down on them for about 20 minutes. The shooter only stopping to reload. People were taking cover any place they could find. Police eventually found the shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Sources say they used an explosive to knock the door down to the room from where he was firing. The shooter was shot and killed inside that room. He has been identified as Stephen Paddock. He has a Mesquite address. His roommate, identified as Mary Lou Danley, has been taken into custody. Police are still trying to determine if she was involved in this shooting. So the moment that we have feared for more than a decade has finally come to fruition. Las Vegas is in the center of the news world today, quite literally. So right now we want to check in with Heather Mills. Heather is located at Metro headquarters, and the Metro Sheriff has been giving news conferences here for a better part of several hours this morning and updating the media about every 2 hours on this shooting. But Craig Figner joins us live from the Strip this morning. So Craig, how close are you? It looks like I can see the New York behind you, but I know a lot of that Strip was shut down overnight, Craig.
It was, and so when I first heard about this and responded to report on it, to cover it, I live nearby, so I was here very quickly and unbeknownst to me, in the mix of it, and then unable to get back out of it. So I spent the first several hours down on the Strip at Tropicana, Las Vegas Boulevard. Now we are at Tropicana and Dean Martin, so that's west of the Strip. This has been an incredible tragedy, of course, and it has been unbelievable to hear some of the heartbreaking stories from people who were at this event. I spoke with one woman who traveled up from Murrieta in Southern California, and she came up with her friend. They were at the concert. It was day 3. Everything seemed just fine until she heard what she thought at first were firecrackers. She heard the popping noise and then realized people dropping, and then she ran, realized that the person she was with, who she was attending the concert with, was not with her. That person did die. We saw people who were on the Strip, again, concert goers who were not able to get back to their hotels because all the properties were on lockdown. The Luxor, Tropicana, Mandalay Bay, then you had the Excalibur, New York. Nobody could get back to their hotels. If they were in the buildings when all this went down, they had to stay put. And so people were separated from their loved ones. They were separated from their ability to get their wallets to buy things, because people had, with them stuff at the concert, and then they would just, they told me they dropped it and ran for their lives. And so this yet. I saw in front of the store, there was a trail of blood. I don't mean to be graphic, but this is what the life and death situation was for people on the strip. Blood and clothes and bags and things people were carrying because there was such panic as they ran for their lives. And there was one other couple up here from Bakersfield, and they said that one thing that they noticed as they were just kind of going through processing this tragedy, that there was some metal detectors that were being used and maybe some wanding, but it didn't seem to be very intense. The security, you know, on the first 2 days, Friday and Saturday. But then they said today they were patting people down, and they felt, and when they went in, that there was an extra sense of urgency, or maybe not urgency, but an extra sense of attention, more attention to the security, to the pat down, to the use of metal detectors as people went into the venue. And they did remark on that it was different getting in today than it was Friday or Saturday. And these people, again, the one comment I continue to hear is the simple fact that they, everybody who was there, that they felt like they had to run for their lives. And we spoke with some of those people live earlier here on News 3. They're just heartbreaking stories when you add to that the death toll now, more than 50, and having talked with some of the people who have lost people. Dana.
All right, Craig, thank you very much for that. And we'll check in again with Craig on the Las Vegas Strip. But right now, we want to talk to an eyewitness of this shooting. Dan Ball is a former reporter and anchor from News 3, now lives in the Palm Springs area. But Dan, I understand that you were attending this music festival with some friends last night, and you were very close to Jason Aldean, who was performing at the time when this all rang out. So give us an idea of what you heard and what you saw last night, just hours ago.
Well, Jim, we haven't spoken in a few years, but it's nice to hear your voice on these horrible, unfortunate circumstances. But let me clarify. We were actually not there when the shots rang out. We actually made a last-minute decision to leave before Jason's show. I think he had just started. We had hopped on the tour bus with our friends John and Kenny from the band Big and Rich, and they were going to play a gig at John's bar over by Bally's called Redneck Riviera. And my girlfriend and I were actually on the stage during almost the entire Big and Rich performance, standing right there where Jason was standing. And then when they finished their set, we kind of hung around on stage for Jake Owen. We watched his performance. I was standing right at the edge shooting video of the crowd and Jake, and went back to the tour bus. And when they were getting ready for Jason's set, the bus was getting ready to leave. And I looked to my girlfriend and said, do we stay and watch Jason, or do you want to head to the bar and watch John and the guys play another set over there? And we literally jumped on the bus as it was rolling out and decided to go. Sometime between the bus getting down the street to Bally's and the band setting up is when we got the first alert that all hell had broken loose and shots were being fired. I had talked to JR, John, and he said he got a text from Jason saying that Jason was okay and some of the band members were okay, but they had some of their guests that were on that stage, some of the workers in the back, and then obviously all these people in the crowd, all these innocent victims that were down and dead.
Okay,
so that's kind of how we got word.
So Dan, give us an idea of security at this location. There were no metal detectors to get through. Not that this would have stopped this attack, but I'm just curious as to know what kind of security you noticed on site.
Yeah, security was good. We went all 3 nights. We checked into the main entrance where you had to cross from the Luxor and go into the main gate. They had you pull everything out of your pockets. They were, doing a light frisk on you, checking boots for any weapons or paraphernalia and stuff. And then they had the wands, and they would wand you up and down. So I thought it was, adequate security there. And again, in this situation, it didn't make any difference, Jim. I mean, and how are you going to provide security with all these hotels and thousands of rooms when you have what it appears to be a lone wolf wacko that decides to take a rifle into one of these hotel rooms, if in fact that's going to be the fact. I mean, I've heard from people that were down there, a friend of mine, John Allen, who's a former Palm Springs fire chief, was there with friends. He texted and called me immediately and said that they had hunkered down behind a dumpster, about 10 or 12 of them. They had a couple wounded with them, and then they raced down by the gates by the airport and hid over there. So, and he said he heard multiple rounds. They thought it was coming from different directions. So I know we're hearing it's a lone shooter now, but a lot of people in the crowd are saying they thought it came from different directions. Again, in the mass chaos, who knows?
Well, listen, FBI, Metro, they're all trying to figure out the answers to these questions, but you raised very good questions this morning, the same questions that law enforcement have here. But right now, Metro says that they have killed the lone shooter, Stephen Paddock, who has a Mesquite address, a man who wanted a view of the concert from a room at the Mandalay Bay, checking himself into the 32nd floor and unloading with automatic weapons. Witnesses on scene saying that the shooting was nonstop for about 20 minutes on that site. Dan Ball, thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go live to Crystal Allen, who's located at the Thomas and Mack Center. Many of the people that were at that concert have been relocated there and trying to be relocated with their friends and family. We'll go live to her after this quick timeout. At 4:42, we continue to follow this breaking news. Just a quick update. Right now, a gunman opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay onto a crowd of 30,000 concert goers across the street on the Las Vegas Strip. They were attending a country music festival. More than 50 people were killed, more than 200 injured. And many of the people that were at that concert were taken to the Thomas and Mack Center for their safety. And that's where we find Crystal Allen this morning. Crystal, what can you tell us from that scene?
Yeah, good morning, Dana. You know, I've had the opportunity since I've been here to talk to some of the people that have been making their way here. They were bused here because, as you well know, with most of the strip being shut down, they had to evacuate the strip. So we're seeing lines of people just kind of pouring out of the Thomas and Mack. I'm assuming they've been able to find rides or make some type of accommodations, but there were people coming out of shows. There were people that were trying to check into hotels. They were just trying to figure out what was going on. As you can see behind me, a pretty significant police presence there as well. And from what the people have been telling me, the police have been very, very helpful in just terms of directing things and keeping things orderly, keeping them calm in light of everything that's been going on. Obviously a very stressful situation. So, you know, we haven't been trying to put people on the spot because we obviously know it's very difficult for them right now. I actually had a chance to talk to some young ladies from Los Angeles who were in the Michael Jackson 1 show at Mandalay Bay, and they said that they paused the show and they were told that they had to manage a situation. A couple officers came out, and, you know, at that point, everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. So they're looking at their phones, they're checking social media, and they're getting the updates and alerts that are coming in. And they say it was just a sense of shock and disbelief that just kind of fell over them. And you're hearing, you know, the whisperings and the rumbling in the crowd. But they said those officers really did a good job of stepping up, maintaining order, keeping everything calm, trying to allay some of their fears and just keep them informed of what was going on. And then, of course, they were bused here to Thomas and Mack, and they ultimately left. But, you know, one thing they said is that the people of Las Vegas, have been very friendly, very kind, very accommodating. And one example of that is my friend Tony here. If we can bring him into the conversation. Tony, now you just moved here from Illinois, right? Is what you were saying?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and so you decided to come out here and volunteer.
Yes, I was at work at McCarran Airport. I get off at midnight, and heard all about the commotion. And I stayed down the street from Thomas Mack, and hey, I'm a Mason, let me help. You know, what can I do to help?
So you stayed down the street from the Thomas and Mack. You decided to come down and see if anybody needed a ride anywhere, needed water, anything that you could do to help.
Whatever service they need.
Yeah, and Tony, we appreciate you, and I think that just speaks to just the big hearts of people here in this community. When something like this type of tragedy affects us, it affects all of us. I mean, even us here reporting on these stories, we're a part of this community. So it's great to see local people stepping up to help others who are visitors to our towns, people who are locals who are out on the strip and going through all of this, just to kind of provide them with a sense of comfort and be there when they really need them. So we're going to go in there and get a little more information. They're really not allowing our cameras in there, and I can understand that for the privacy of the people that have gone through so much this evening. But I'm going to talk to the police officers to get a better idea of what's kind of unfolding here, and we'll keep you informed and updated right here outside the Thomas and Mack. I'm Crystal Allen reporting live. We're going to send it back to you, Dana.
Okay, Crystal, thank you very much. Right now, we want to check in with Kim Wagner. Kim, you've made it down to the Las Vegas Strip as close as you could to the site, so give us an idea of what it took for you just to get to your current location.
It kind of felt like planes, trains, and automobiles. Really hard to get down to this location. Let me orient you for where I am right now. I'm at the Boulevard in Sunset. This is as far as you can go right now to get as close to the site as possible. I did talk with those police officers, and so did Jillian Lopez, our producer who's out here with me gathering information. They say the best bet right now is to try and go up Frank Sinatra, possibly. But Dana, they're telling me all of these intersections that are closed indefinitely as they continue to gather information. I have encountered some workers from Mandalay Bay, shift workers, who are trying to get to work and just simply don't know what to do right now. And they are telling me that they have not heard from the resort with how to proceed. So that's something in our newsroom that the team of people can help us with getting that information out. I also heard Crystal Allen talk about the tremendous loss of life and the worry and concern for others who have not heard from family members. I would like everyone to get a pen out right now, and my apologies if we've already shared this phone number or have it on the screen, but I think it's important. Right now, Las Vegas Metro Police are putting out a phone number for anyone who is concerned about the whereabouts or condition of a family member or friend, and that is 1-866-535-5654, 1-866-535-5654. Dana, I heard you just interviewing Dan Ball, a former colleague and friend of ours who was an anchor at Channel 3, and so we just know that in addition to us being an international tourist destination, as Crystal said, we are a part of the community. We are Las Vegas, and we stand with Las Vegas at this moment. We recently had the opportunity to travel to Israel to learn about the safety concerns that really challenged that country, and we had a lot of people concerned about our safety as we traveled to the Middle East, saying, are you sure you feel safe enough to go? Well, look what's just happened in our own backyard. I have been checking out the latest reports, and they are dubbing this the worst mass shooting casualty in United States history, and there's just so much more that we're learning about the person who's responsible for this and the possible motivation. So I'm going to actually send it back to you in the studio, but before I do so, to give people a feel for what people were going through out on the scene last night in the 10 o'clock hour, listen in to what somebody said right there on site.
So there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue, into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we are all going to die tonight.
So can you imagine that horrific sound? Are you here with the Review Journal? Could you mind coming in here? Sorry, you just walked into scene. I was going to ask you if you know anything.
I just arrived from Los Angeles.
You arrived from Los Angeles. What media outlet are you with? Okay, so we have a person with the French media who has just arrived on scene. You see that he has all of his cameras here and is doing exactly what I'm doing out here, just trying to get the latest information. As you can see, we also have windy conditions to deal with. during this hour as well. So, Dana, I'm going to send it back to you, but I guarantee you I'll keep you posted, and we will interrupt any programming possible with breaking news. You and I have been in this community almost 20 years and have multiple high-level law enforcement sources that we're working behind the scenes with our cell phones right now. We learned from the Amar Harris case that they also have Homeland Security cameras atop all of these resorts behind me. So in addition to the tremendous surveillance capability they already have at Mandalay Bay, they also have those Homeland Security cameras that no doubt will be a part of this investigation. For now, Kim Wagner reporting live. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Kim, so thank you for that. And a man who can speak to those surveillance cameras on the Las Vegas Strip is sitting next to me right now. Retired Metro Detective Phil Ramos is joining us, and it's been a long night for you, my friend. So first of all, I want to say thank you for hanging out and giving us some perspective. Number one, let's talk about why they have that area shut down. There's not an active shooter. That's it. They believe that the lone shooter was found in that room in the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, shot and killed by Metro officers or another officer, maybe from the FBI or SWAT. But they have that area shut down. What are they trying to find there?
Well, because it's such a big crime scene, they need to keep expanding it as secure areas so that people don't wander in from wherever they're at. I mean, there's so much
that would
area
contaminate the crime scene.
Contaminate the crime scene. People are going to be in there trying to gather souvenirs and wanting to see what's going on. So they just got to keep everybody as far away as possible from there until they advance the investigation, and then they will gradually reduce the perimeter so that people can get close.
All right, so the perimeter is large now, and they'll slowly contract the perimeter until they get around the exact concert site. Just to orient people, this is right across the street from the Luxor on the Las Vegas Strip. This is a concert site, 30,000 people on hand, more than 50 killed, more than 200 injured there as well. How long are they going to have that shut down? How long will this investigation go? I'd imagine it'd be the bulk of the day.
Oh, it'll be more than the bulk of the day. I mean, they've got so much evidence to collect. There's such a big area. I mean, the entire Mandalay Bay is going to be a crime scene. The concert venue across the street is going to be a crime scene. So it's going to be many, many hours, if not a couple of days.
And they have a lot of video to go through. Every inch of the Mandalay Bay is covered by a surveillance camera. Right. And you may be able to speak to this as well. Homeland Security also has surveillance cameras on the Las Vegas Strip. They'll be looking at those cameras as well.
Well, since they've got this isolated to 2 individuals, what they'll do is get the surveillance cameras from the Mandalay Bay and work backwards and trace their movements throughout the hotel. And then if they can get them out on the streets somewhere else in another hotel, then they'll bring that camera work into play and just document as much as they can the movements of these individuals during the shooting, before the shooting, and after the shooting.
Okay, Phil, thank you very much for that. Heather Mills is joining us now from Metro headquarters, and we know the sheriff of Clark County has been giving news conferences about every 2 hours. The last one was just about an hour ago. We're expecting another one here shortly. So, Heather, what could you tell us from Metro headquarters this morning?
Good morning, Dana. Yeah, here live at Metro headquarters. As you said, Sheriff Joe Lombardo providing updates about every 2 hours or so. And that number, that time frame, of course, is very fluid. It all hinges on what's going on with the investigation, which is very active, as you've been seeing from all of those images. Now, what we do know, the latest information that we'll be sharing with folks who are just waking up this morning to this tragedy. 50 people killed, as many and many more, more than 200 injured on this shooting. The video, of course, that you're watching playing out last night at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, Jason Aldean on stage. The shooter killed by Metro Police on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay. We're told that 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, he was killed and he was found with a number of firearms in his room. The person of interest, the person whom he was with, Marilou Danley, she has been found. She is in police custody. So I want to caution people, you know, when things like this play out, internet is a tough place to go. You're going to see a lot of misinformation on social media. We are here to give you the facts and give you the information that's coming to us from our sources, and also from Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who is briefing us as new information comes to light, and that information can be validated. It can become concrete at that point. So what we do know is they're not calling this a terrorist attack. They're calling this a lone wolf attack. And right now, no motive for this individual against Stephen Paddock, the person that they are claiming responsibility for this mass shooting, which has now been identified as the worst mass shooting in U.S. history. So Dana, as we sit here at Las Vegas Metro headquarters, you know, what I can tell you is police are kind of surrounding this area as well. We have a media staging area. There are plenty of us here from the media waiting for those briefs from police, but they're also being very careful. As I drove up and pulled in, a police officer showed his light into the car to make sure I was alone, to make sure that there wasn't anything with me. Of course, they're on heightened alert, most of their resources being down at the Strip, but that does mean that it's going to make it difficult for people who are trying to get into work today. I myself had some difficulty. I wasn't able to get on the 15 northbound this morning, which I understand has now reopened, but even the side streets are starting to clog up. People are just trying to navigate their way, filter through all of this, and figure out exactly what is going on. So if you find yourself waking up this morning, you know, trying to deal with this tragedy and also trying to move on as your day makes its way here on a Monday, do be advised you're going to need to give yourself a little extra time no matter what part of town you're in, because even over here in the northern downtown area of Las Vegas, things are very busy and there are police kind of sanctioned throughout the city, just trying to keep a monitor on things and trying to keep things calm. So Dana, I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on here. As soon as we get another update, I will pass it on to you. For now, I'm going to send it back to you in the studio. Heather Mills here reporting from Metro headquarters.
Thank you for that, Heather. And by the way, I kind of want to orient people too on the cell phone video that we're watching. That came from one of our viewers, Rebecca Ash, and it looks like she is located in some sort of VIP section for this concert, looking down on 30,000 people who were enjoying the Jason Aldean performance at the time of the shooting. In the background, you can hear the gunshots as people are scrambling for cover. The shooter firing an automatic weapon from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, located just across the street, only stopping to reload or get another automatic weapon. Some eyewitnesses saying that the shooting went on for the better part of 20 minutes. Tom Hawley joins us here in the studio with more on exactly where this took place.
I'll start by telling you that I-15 has reopened, as Heather Mills reported a moment ago, so you do have north and southbound travel going through. That was shut down for a couple of hours there. So the exact location of what we're talking about, this is on I-15, I-15 reopened. You see this black traffic flow. That means the Strip is still closed. And probably the south end of the Strip, I would venture to guess, the rest of the day, if not longer, the south end of the Strip will be closed. And so here's the Mandalay Bay, and then it's sort of catty corner over here from where the Route 91 Harvest Festival was taking place. And this is the area that's been known as the Las Vegas Festival Center. It's operated by MGM Grant. So it's kind of catty corner there with a diagonal going across. And that closure, as I mentioned, is going to be throughout the day. We also heard some people confused about how they're going to get to work. I would say the first thing, if you work at one of these properties, is check if they even want you to come to work today, because probably a lot of people, they're just saying stay at home. So you need to find out, if possible, from your supervisor if you want it. We do have that closure on the south end. We're going to get up later and find the north end of it. But this is where Kim Wagner was stationed a little bit ago, Las Vegas Boulevard and Sunset. So, Dana, it's barricaded down there on the south end. And like I said, the rest of the day, the south end of the Strip will be closed, if not longer.
Okay, Tom, thank you very much for that. We are joined here on the set by a retired Metro detective, Phil Ramos, who's been kind enough to stick with us all the way through the early morning hours today. More than 50 people killed, more than 200 injured. Right now, we believe it was a lone gunman, 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, shooting down onto the crowd, 30,000 concert goers below him. What could you do to stop this kind of lone wolf attack, which is what they're calling it at Metro right now?
Well, short of stopping everybody that comes into the Mandalay Bay and checking their luggage, it'd be very difficult to stop something like this. I mean, this guy knew exactly where he wanted to go. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had substantial amount of firepower, and he took an elevated position, which put him at a huge advantage over responding officers that were going to try and stop him.
So, Phil, this is a tourist town. We all know that. It goes without saying. But this is a moment that we have feared, many of us in this community, since 9/11. We've all lived here since then. But this is something we thought may happen on New Year's Eve. It happened on the first day of October in 2017. But what's to stop somebody from doing this elsewhere on the Las Vegas Strip or anywhere in our country?
Well, you know, it's hard to say because we're dealing with this kind of world now on a regular basis. So were we long overdue for something like this? Some people would say yes. It's hard to guess where the next terrorist attack is going to occur. Not that this was a per se terrorist attack. This was probably a homegrown lone wolf situation, and those situations are almost impossible to predict and just as hard to try and stop once somebody sets their mind to it.
We've obviously seen these types of attacks happening around the world, in Paris and London, not to this extent in most cases, but now the nightmare has hit Las Vegas. And I know a lot of people set their alarms for 5 o'clock in the morning, so I kind of want to reorient people. A lot of people are just waking up to this news this morning, but we have breaking news from the Las Vegas Strip. A gunman with automatic weapons opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay and sprayed 30,000 concert goers with bullets, killing at least 50 people. As you take a look at cell phone video provided by one of our viewers here, this gunman also injured more than 200 more. You can hear the gunfire in the background. It's absolutely horrific. You can also see the Mandalay Bay in the background as well. Among the dead, an off-duty Metro officer. Another on-duty officer was critically injured. People attending the Route 91 Country Music Festival directly across the boulevard from the Luxor. Country music star Jason Aldean was about midway through his set just after 10 p.m. when the bullets began flying. Some eyewitnesses say that the bullets came raining down on them for about 20 minutes, with the shooter only stopping to reload at the time. People taking cover wherever they could. Police eventually found the shooter on the 32nd floor, and sources say they used an explosive device to knock the door down to the room from where he was firing. The shooter was shot and killed inside. He's been identified as Stephen Paddock. He has an address out of the Mesquite area, a retirement community up there. We're also hearing from sources that his wife has also been taken into custody. She's been identified as Mary Lou Danley. Kim Wagner joins us live from the scene. Kim, you got as close to the location as you possibly could. You're located at Las Vegas Boulevard and Sunset, but you're still about a mile away.
Yeah, but what we're seeing right now, and Jillian Lopez, our producer here, is out in the field with me. Do you see this white minivan type of a thing that's backing up? We just saw a bunch of people, they look like visitors, tourists, load into that. One of them also, Jillian, let me interview you. Come here. What did you just find out?
That was Jason Aldean and his whole crew of people. They've been holding him for a while, and he's finally out safe and getting out of there. So.
Wow, thank you. Great work, my friend. So did you hear that? Jason Aldean, who started going on social media talking about this horrific tragedy in the 1 o'clock hour, 1 a.m. hour, is just now at 5 a.m. and his family being released, and they are going, driving away as we speak with the flashing lights of that white sort of minivan, and there were children that got into that minivan. It looked like there was even some sort of an infant carrier. So as we process this information, you were in the middle of doing another report, and I believe that our photographer Brad had tight shots of the people getting into the car. We can review that footage and be able to maybe identify who was along with Jason Aldean getting into that van. But my goodness, talk about being holed up for a long time. 5 a.m. he started taking to Twitter in the 1 a.m. hour, and we're just seeing that conclusion. I'm also going to run across the street and find out if there's any more information about this intersection. It looks to me like they're letting people go through right now. Is that what's happening? Let me see. Or are they stopping people? Anyway, let me send it back to you in the studio, and I'll go do a little digging and find out more and get back to you.
Okay, Kim, thank you for that. So Jason Aldean performing last night. This is a concert site that's located just across the Las Vegas Strip from the Luxor. It's called the Route 91 Country Music Festival. It's been going on for years here. He was in the middle of his set at around 10:30 last night when the shots rang out, and we have heard from eyewitnesses on the scene. At first, they thought they were firecrackers, but they soon realized that it was not firecrackers, that it was gunshots ringing out from across the street from the 32nd floor. Numerous people being hit by bullets, and you can hear the gunfire in the background. An absolutely horrific scene. We are bleeping out some of the audio because people yelling out expletives at the time this is happening. People running for cover as well. More than 50 people were killed, more than 200 injured, and those injured have been taken to local hospitals, many of them at UMC and also at Sunrise, not located that far from this concert site on Las Vegas Boulevard. Our Craig Figner has been on this story for hours for us this morning and joins us from as close as possible to the scene. first of all, orient us. Where are you? It says Las Vegas Boulevard near Trop. Is that right?
Well, we have moved since then, and I'll show you behind me here to give you a scene setter. So this is an intersection you might very well recognize, Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana. That's the New York property up there, and this has been really one of the focal points of everything that has been happening, these surreal events going on overnight and all morning. This was where there was a triage tent set up in the middle. There were ambulances staging here, and this is where we saw people who had been at the concert and who had run for their lives from that concert, stuck and stranded on the Strip because they couldn't get back to their hotel rooms. This was a very dramatic place. It's not over yet, certainly. In fact, we've heard that people are still having trouble getting back into their resorts or their properties. New York was closed. The Mandalay Bay, Luxor, and Excalibur, all of these resorts were in lockdown as people were in them and couldn't get out after the shooting started, and then people who were outside, many of them at the concert, couldn't get back in, and so they were stranded on the Strip. And to look at it now, I can tell you that that this is, again, just unbelievable to see the Las Vegas Strip shut down. The resorts literally crippled because of this investigation. And this still looks like, again, unbelievable. But earlier this morning, and I'm talking about like 1 to 2 in the morning, there were police officers, cop cars, ambulances everywhere, all through the Strip, and then at the center of the intersection, that triage tent where they were where they had the ability to treat people who were injured, and all of that was happening while they were still going through some of the buildings, the resort, and looking to make sure there wasn't anybody still in there who was related to this terrible tragedy that happened. This is all going to be closed here, the Strip, I would imagine, for several more hours. I can just look at this and knowing, how these investigations go, this is not going to be back to normal, at least with people being able to go into the buildings for some time. I would, of course, venture to say that Las Vegas won't be back to normal for forever. This leaves a terrible scar as people learn, and some of them still didn't know, that 50 people, at least 50 people, killed in this shooting. So the investigation here at this intersection is I would say this is still part of the investigation. This isn't wrapped up, but we are seeing more people back on the Strip because they're letting people cross over that bridge there from the Tropicana over the 15, because a lot of people even walked that direction because they had nowhere to go. They're now letting them back towards the Strip on foot, not with their cars, but once they get here, they're having trouble getting into their hotels. Dana.
Okay, Craig, thank you very much. Stay on site. We'll continue to check in with Craig to see closures on the Las Vegas Strip. You are watching News 3 today, special coverage of what they are calling the largest mass shooting in United States history. More than 50 people were killed at that concert last night. This happened around 10:30. More than 200 injured. The death toll is expected to increase, and we do have reporters stationed all across the Las Vegas Valley to get you up to date on this. Meanwhile, we want to take you to a person who joins us by the phone. Dan Ball used to be a reporter and anchor here at News 3. You were at the concert last night, and you left right before Jason Aldean took the stage, right before those shots rang out. Tell us what you heard and saw.
Yeah, hi Dana. Sorry I called you Jim earlier when we were talking an hour ago. As you imagine, it's been a long night. We haven't slept, but horrible to be reunited with something like this, but hello to you and your wife. And, we were on that stage, Dana, with the band Big and Rich, who performed, and then Jake Owen performed, and then Jason took the stage. We were backstage for the Jake's concert. We were actually on the stage with the band for the majority of their gig. And then we went backstage. We were kind of hanging where the buses were. We watched Jake. I went up on stage right up to the front. You could see this amazing crowd of just innocent people having a great time. I got some video of that. Jumped back on the bus. Jake was done. Jason took to the stage, and the tour bus was going to leave because the band Big and Rich had a gig over at John Rich's bar, the Redneck Riviera, which is next to Valley. And so I looked at my girlfriend and I said, do you want to stay, and then we can walk or Uber down, and we'll watch Jason, or do you want to go on the bus now and leave? And literally as Jason was starting to play, we made that call and stayed on the bus. And so we got down to the venue, The band started there, and someone ran in from the crew, I think it was the road manager, and said there's been a shooting at the site on the stage right where we just were, guys. We're going to go on lockdown. And so we were in lockdown in the bar for several hours and until we got the all clear. And then Metro and some of the SWAT guys were able to walk to the bus, got on, and they had the bus go across the boulevard. I think we were on Sahara. I don't even remember. It was a blur. And then we got to go over the freeway and get out into the suburbs, and they dropped us off with some friends over here on the southwest side of town. So, but we were, hunkered down. People were laying in the bar. If you know the bar, it's a two-story bar looking straight at Bellagio, and with the wild reports on 2-3 shooters, different casinos, bomb threats at Luxor, people were just laying down on the floor in the bar, hiding behind stuff, and, just trying to wait and see. The television screens got all turned to the local press, and we were just waiting to hear word. I had several friends that were actually in the crowd that were taking pictures of us while we were on the stage and sending them to me, so I knew they were right in the line of fire. I've confirmed all those friends from the Palm Springs area. Josh Allen, our former Palm Springs fire chief, some good friends of ours. Also from Palm Desert were here. They were down in the crowd. They all made it out safely, thank God, but they saw people getting hit right next to them, left and right, and they said it just didn't seem like it ended.
Dan, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us by telephone this morning, and we are looking at some cell phone video provided to us by one of the concert goers there named Rebecca Ash. It looks like she was up in a VIP area shooting down on the crowd at the time of the shooting, and at first people thought it was firecrackers. They quickly found out as people were dropping next to them that this was gunfire that they were hearing. And Dan is right, it was pretty much nonstop. We understand for maybe up to 20 minutes with a lone shooter from the Mandalay Bay 32nd floor firing down onto that concert-goer crowd of 30,000 people in town for the third and final night of the Route 91 Country Music Festival located just across the Las Vegas Boulevard from the Luxor. And 50 people at least have been killed in this, more than 200 injured, many of them taken to UMC, and that's where we find our Faith Jesse. Faith, give us an idea of what it's like right now at UMC, and if you have any condition on any of the injured, give us an update on that as well.
Hi, Dana. Good morning to you. We haven't gotten an update on the condition of any of the patients, but I did speak with the lady, Erica Nansen. She works in UMC. She's been inside for several hours. When I asked her, Erica, how are you doing? She said the best way to describe her feelings right now is shock. Having to speak to the families, having to calm everybody down. If you guys didn't know, and let me show you guys a look at the scene here, high police presence here. UMC is the only level 1 trauma center in Nevada. So most of the patients were brought here. The count right now, unfortunately, we're saying that more than 50 people were killed, more than 200 injured. So right now, the doctors here, nurses, everybody, help has been called in from outside, scrambling to help these injured people. Like I said, a lot of shock, a lot of panic. We can't speak to any of the patients or families right now because it's blocked off and police have to still surround the area. I know I heard around 11 o'clock there was a group of people that were actually stopped at gunpoint by police because they were actually walking in an area that was actually supposed to be closed off. They didn't realize they were actually just coming to the hospital to try to check on a loved one, but police didn't know who they were. It's very high security. I actually even had an issue trying to get here myself because police are still on high alert. They don't know if there could be any other gunmen. They don't know if there's anybody that could try to act on top of this. So still a crime scene as well as a medical scene. So that's what we're hearing right now. We're going to stay on top of this for you. There's one other person at UMC who has been getting phone calls and giving us interviews. So I'm going to try to get an interview with her so we can actually get an inside look at to what the climate is like inside of that hospital right now. We're going to stay on top of updates for you all. Another thing they wanted me to tell you, if you're watching this right now, just waking up, just finding out what's going on, said, oh my gosh, my friend, my brother, my sister was at that concert and want to know how they're doing. Before you come to the hospital, they're asking you to please call around, call your family, call your friends, call that person to see if they're okay before you come so that they can try to eliminate the foot traffic so that they can, you know what I'm saying, just try to focus on the people that need help, not people that might need help. So if you could try to figure out what's going on before you get here. That's great. If you do need to come, please come. People will be out there to help. I'm Faith Jesse reporting, News 3.
Okay, Faith, many of the injured then taken to UMC, but also some of them taken to Sunrise Hospital as well. More than 200 have been injured, and you can imagine some of these injuries from a high-powered rifle that was fired from just across the street from the concert site. Again, hospital officials very busy this morning. They have not given us much in the way of updates, but we're trying to figure out how many people are at Sunrise, how many at UMC, and what type of injuries we're talking about. But among the dead, and more than 50 have been killed, and that number expected to go up this morning. An off-duty Metro officer was killed at the scene. Another on-duty officer was critically injured as well. And to orient us on exactly where this took place, Tom Hawley joins us here in the studio with more on that.
And I will tell you that I-15 has now been reopened, so you do have traffic going through. That's what that green traffic flow means, even though it's black here on the strip, so no traffic moving whatsoever. And we expect that to be the case for hours. Just to orient you as far as how the scene goes, this is where the Mandalay Bay is right here. And the scene, the Route 91 was taking place at the Las Vegas Festival Grounds, which is just catty corner here. So it's across Hacienda or Mandalay Bay, depending on which side you're on. And so it was a line of sight across the street here, across that corner. Right now you see that everything is shut down here. We expect that to remain the case for really the rest of the day, and who knows how much further. The south end of the strip closed. So for alternate routes, probably want to give it a wide berth. Use Decatur on the one side. I-15 is open. On the other side, go over to Eastern, or you can use the airport connector. I suggest a lot of people will be doing the exact same thing. And the Thomas and Mack is where we understand a lot of people who are attending the festival have been taken just to sort of straighten things out. That's probably an area you want to avoid as well. And if you do work in one of those properties on the south end of the strip, probably want to check in and see if your services are even wanted today, because some of those properties might even be shutting down. This is where the closure is on the south end, Sunset Road. You see the barricades across. No one heading north on Las Vegas Boulevard from Sunset. We'll have all of this coming from Sky 3 and get a different perspective coming up here, Dana.
Okay, Tom, thank you. So we want to get you to the ground right now. Kim Wagner has left the studio. She is located just to the south of where this shooting took place. Kim, you're located at Sunset and Las Vegas Boulevard, about a mile away from where this shooting took place, and that's as close as you can get.
Yeah. It is as close as we can get right now, and something incredible just happened right at 5 a.m. So 15 minutes ago, we saw Jason Aldean and members of his team who were escorted out of that corridor. And I also just checked with NBC's Joe Fryer, who says police are still going door to door from where he is inside the resort, which is the Four Seasons Resort connected to Mandalay Bay. So they're still actively checking on everyone. Jason Aldean, as we know, was on stage when this horrific event happened in the 10 o'clock hour last night. And just now at 5 a.m., he has finally left this area. He has two daughters, a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old. They were not with him last night. So we saw a child safety seat that was loaded into that white minivan 15 minutes ago. Must have been a child related to a crew member of his. I also want to correct something. I was saying that here he was in the 1 a.m. hour taking to social media talking about this horrific event. That actually was a statement that he gave to news outlets. I just checked his Twitter handle, and he still doesn't have anything regarding this event from what happened when he was on stage last night. And at this location where we are, another problem we've encountered is I have had people who are trying to get to work, shift workers who work at Mandalay Bay, and they don't know what to do from here. We were told possibly going the way of Frank Sinatra to get to Mandalay Bay is a possibility, but even the officers out here on the scene don't know exactly how each and every intersection is being handled right now. I did hear Tom Hawley report that the 15 is back open, so that is progress that's been made since we started broadcasting from this location at 4:30 this morning. But when I send it back to you in the studio, Jillian Lopez, the producer, and I out here are just checking in with officers on the scene so they can tell us the latest information. But I want to hand it to Jillian Lopez, who is a proud member of this community and a journalist along with us. And when I saw that white minivan, I just had a feeling, and I said, Jillian, can you run across and find out what's going on? And as we were live on the air, she was able to get confirmation that that was Jason Aldean along with crew members. And once I send it back to you in the studio, we're going to get that footage back to the station where we may be able to see Jason Aldean getting into that white minivan.
All right, Kim, thank you. Jason Aldean, country music star, performing at the time of the shooting right across the street from the Mandalay Bay The lone shooter was at the 32nd floor of a room there, and he opened fire onto the crowd of people who were enjoying the Jason Aldean concert, part of the Route 91 Country Music Festival that's been going on in this community for 4 years. This was the third and final night of the show. 30,000 people there. Withering gunfires you can hear in the background. Some people, eyewitnesses on the scene, say the gunfire continued for about 20 minutes. At least that's what they thought at the time. More than 50 killed and more than 200 injured. Again, the largest mass shooting in United States history. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to regroup here, and we'll be back on the other side. could they have done to stop this?
Well, it's just so hard to say right now because it's so early in the investigation. I mean, if you are talking about some guy going into a hotel, getting a nice room, and sneaking a rifle in, that's very easy to do. You know, the scary part about it is it's very easy to do without having all your guests go through a scanner, go through a metal detector or something like that. And, you know, are we at that point? Who knows?
It is frightening, Phil, when you think about some of the large crowds that we have here in town. 250,000 people descend on our city for New Year's Eve every year on the Las Vegas Strip. So when you see something like occurred at 10:30 last night, what's to prevent another attack like this one?
Well, it's hard to say until somebody gets a mindset like this guy had. There's just no way to predict it. You know, I worked the Strip on New Year's Eve. I was in uniform, sitting there with all these celebrating thousands and thousands of tourists, and we were all just crossing our fingers, hoping nothing goes wrong. Because if something went wrong, there'd be very little the department could do.
I mean, this is the moment that we have feared since 9/11.
Yeah.
A lone attacker in the Las Vegas Valley opening fire with automatic weapons on a large crowd. So, Phil, thank you very much for sticking around all night. I know you have to take out, but I really appreciate you being here and giving your perspective. Right now, we want to check in with Crystal Allen. You're at the Thomas & Mack Center. Many of the people that were at the concert were taken to your site, which is located probably about 1.5 miles away.
Yeah, that's right, Dana. We are at the Thomas & Mack, and what we've seen is a lot of people that have actually been exiting the Thomas & Mack because police telling us that they are able to leave at this point in time. Now, where they're going, a lot of them really just don't know. I actually talked to one lady who said that she was at the Excalibur, someone else who was at the Mandalay Bay, and they're actually trying to get back somewhere, but where they're going, they really don't know at this point in time. And as you notice, as people were going in and up the escalator there, they actually were frisking them down because they don't want to take any chances when it comes to what's happened here on the Las Vegas Strip. And very quickly, I know we're going to wrap up here, but I wanted to show you kind of what's happening with the situation of getting people out of here. The buses have been bringing people into the Thomas & Mack, taking them out of the Thomas & Mack because police say that they can leave should they choose to do so, and also Uber and taxi rides set up over here. So they have a very organized, well-oiled machine when it comes to getting people in and out. And again, I think there's a general consensus when you're talking to people, they're still a little shell-shocked by what's going on, but they have a sense of, I say, somewhat of comfort and relief that things are really well organized and that people are stepping up to help in big ways here in Las Vegas. Let's go ahead and send it back to you in the studio, Dana.
Okay, Crystal, thank you very much. We do have a victim hotline. The phone number you will see occasionally on the bottom of your screen, it's 866-535-5654. If you are trying to find a loved one who may have been in that crowd last night, just across the street from the Luxor on Las Vegas Boulevard, you can call that number. We're going to regroup. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes. in United States history. You can hear the pop of gunfire in the background. Police believe that the shooter is Stephen Paddock, who was living in a retirement community in Mesquite. He was killed by police officers when they burst into his room on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. His wife, Mary Lou Danley, has been taken into custody as police try to determine if she was involved in this. But again, they are calling this a lone shooter act. More than 50 people killed, more than 200 injured. Our Heather Mills standing by at Metro headquarters, and Sheriff Joe Lombardo has been giving news conferences throughout the night. When are we expecting the next one from the sheriff?
Dana, we're anticipating that here any moment, but what I can tell you is that the undersheriff is actually here. He was just chatting with our news partner, CNN. He was doing that live, and what he said was, this is the most disturbing thing he's seen in his 27 years in this career. He said the days ahead are going to be very tough. This is going to be a monumental effort to figure out the who, what, where, when, and why of all of this. And of course, let's keep in mind the fact that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department also dealing with tragedy of their own. One of their officers, we know, killed at the concert. Other officers injured, one at least in critical condition at UMC. So one of the questions, that was asked was, how do you prepare for something like this? And he said, they were staffed appropriately. They did everything that they thought and knew that they could do. He said, how do you prepare for something, that a shooter is on the 32nd floor shooting down at people? How do you prepare for that? And I think that is a question that's going to be answered in the days, weeks, months coming, as all of these law enforcement agencies and FBI get together and try to figure out how they can prepare for something like that in the future. Sadly, that just seems to be the day and age that we're in, is when they have to think in advance of these new situations that could arise. And I do have to tell you, just over the summer, a couple months ago, I actually was at UMC, reported on this story. A doctor from Pulse nightclub, one of the ER doctors who was working in the hospital after the Pulse nightclub shooting, he came out here to Las Vegas and was chatting with the ER doctors and with the staff at University Medical Center, as you know, the only Trauma One center here in the Las Vegas Valley. And they were going over how they were able to get those individuals from Pulse nightclub to the hospital so quickly, what plan worked, what didn't work. He just here a few months ago, that ER doctor from Florida, here with our first responders. And so we do know that Las Vegas and our first responders, whether it be the fire department, the paramedics, and our police, have been working to figure out if something like this were to happen, how would they take care of it? And we know they've been working diligently because they were fast and very effective on this, the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history, here with 50 plus dead, 200 plus injured here in the valley as that shooter rained bullets down from the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay. So Dana, I'm going to send it back into the studio for you. We're going to be waiting for the sheriff, who is not out here yet. We'll be, as soon as we get information from them. Again, I said the undersheriff is out here right now. He may be the one providing updates, but we'll keep an eye on that. And as soon as that comes through, we'll take that live so you can get those new questions answered. Back to you.
Okay, Heather, thank you for that. We know 49 killed and 58 injured in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando from just months ago. In this case, more than 50 killed, more than 200 injured, and we're expecting the death toll to go up from that shooting that happened just about 7 hours ago on the Las Vegas Strip. Kim Wagner has left the studio. She's down joining us there at Sunset and the Boulevard this morning. You're less than a mile away from the site, as close as you could get.
This is as close as we can get, and there are numerous news crews from all over the globe at this location. They're on the concrete median just across the street from me. I went to just see if any of my colleagues have heard any additional information. I heard multiple languages being spoken on live television as I made my way over there. We just saw incredible images at 5 o'clock this morning, Dana, of Jason Aldean and his crew getting into a white minivan, either associated with Metro or Mandalay Bay. I've not been able to nail that down, but I know we have the footage, and I'm sort of out here not able to see what's going on, but I reviewed the footage before I sent it back to the station, and you see multiple members getting into this car. Here it was 10 o'clock at night, in the 10 o'clock hour, that this tragedy happened, when he was on stage just over at this music festival across the way from Mandalay Bay, where you've heard now numerous times that, according to police, the shooter was up on the 32nd floor, made a point of, when he made the reservation, wanting to have a view of this music festival taking place here in Las Vegas throughout the weekend. And it was last night, Sunday night, the 10 o'clock hour, Jason Aldean on stage, and it was 5 o'clock this morning, some 7 hours later, following this tragedy, that he just officially left this area of Sunset and the Boulevard. The police officers are doing a terrific job out here as I continue to pepper them with questions and trying to get updates. And literally 2 minutes ago, one of the nice officers over there said, "Look, Kim, we don't know when this intersection is going to open. When we say it is closed indefinitely, that is all we're hearing." And we know that they are still going door to door within some of the hotel rooms, whether it's at the Four Seasons, where NBC's Joe Fryer, who was here, brought to town to cover OJ being released from Lovelock Prison over the weekend. He's in town for this. He's holed up in his hotel room, still being told to stay in place, shelter in place. So this is still quite an active scene, is what I'm trying to communicate all these hours later. We're going to remain out here on the scene, and we will have continued updates throughout the morning and throughout the day right here on News 3. For now, I'm Kim Wagner. I'm going to send it back to you, Dana, in the studio.
We just had Phil Ramos here in the studio, a retired Metro detective, and he said that the perimeter from this crime scene will be massive initially, and then they will contract it. They will move inwards as they gather evidence. So right now the perimeter is almost a mile around, and eventually they will contract this site as they collect evidence from this crime scene. Right now, Faith Jesse joins us live from UMC. Many of the injured have been taken to your location. And Faith, I'm struck by the fact that it's not very chaotic behind you. I don't see a lot of the victims' family and friends at that location. Have you seen any of them?
Good morning, Dana. So the reason why it seems rather calm right here is because police have blocked off the perimeter of the hospital. Media cannot get close to where the quote-unquote action would be, people rushing in and out of the hospital, because they need to keep the streets clear. Take a look here. This road that we are this is a side road, actually just opened up to give family and friends an opportunity to move their cars and get out of the way, get in and out. We actually spoke with a woman named Rosie who left the concert moments before Jason Aldean came on the stage. Her friend was shot in the leg. We caught her as she was coming out the back entrance of the hospital here, and she was just describing the panic and chaos going inside of the hospital. They waited 4 hours for her friend to get treatment, and it's not because the hospital's slow. That just lets you know how many people they're dealing with. This is the only level 1 trauma center in Nevada. Most of the victims are being brought here and Sunrise Hospital. So I guess the amount of help is not enough for the big need. I have also been told that people have been coming in outside of UMC to help. So that's what we're hearing right now. We also spoke with somebody who's from UMC inside of the hospital. She says, hey, if you're waking up to this news, wondering if your friends and family are okay, please call around first before you come here, just to help them out with the foot traffic, because there are so many people here fighting for their lives, really trying to survive this. And we'll stay up to date on this for you, with hopefully some numbers on the next hit. I'm Faith Jesse reporting, News 3.
Okay, Faith, and I've just been handed a news release from Metro, and now they're saying that an estimated 406 people have been transported to hospitals. The death toll at 50, but that could go higher. NBC News reporting this is the largest mass shooting in United States history. 22,000 concert goers there at the Route 91 Harvest Festival concert that was going on across the street from the Luxor, when a lone gunman opened fire on the crowd using automatic weapons. You can hear the shots ringing out in the background. When police eventually breached the room that he was shooting from, they found the suspect dead, apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And as you can imagine, the need for blood is very high this morning. And United Blood Services will start taking donations, blood donations, at 7 o'clock this morning at 2 locations. First one is 6930 West Charleston Boulevard. The other, 601 Whitney Ranch Drive in Henderson. Both locations open at 7 o'clock this morning. And the victim hotline is open right now if you're trying to find a loved one, 866-535-5654. We'll be back in 2 minutes. are where you are right now.
That's right, Dana. Also, people that were inside of shows on the Strip as well. And, you know, it's died down quite a bit here. But in talking with police, they were telling us there are multiple busloads of people that had come through here. And they were actually frisking them down because obviously they don't want to take any chances in light of what's happened. And I want to draw your attention to some of the items we have here. We have water. We saw a lot of the people coming in. They have blankets. And, you know, that's all due to all the wonderful people in right here in Las Vegas who have donated resources, have donated their time. We even interviewed a man who was offering to take people wherever they needed to go just to lend a helping hand in light of everything that's been going on. A very difficult situation for everyone in this city, both visiting and here locally. Also, we showed you in our last live hit how people were boarding buses, and I was talking to one of the gentlemen who was kind of coordinating all of that, telling us that they have allowed them to go around the back way of the Excalibur and the MGM. Not sure if you all have already reported some of those things, but it looks like they are allowing some folks to go back into some of those properties. The Mandalay Bay, no go at this point in time. So we are starting to see some of the people who are coming back into town being able to kind of reestablish themselves in terms of where they were and kind of get some of their things and get a better idea of where things stand right now. And I do want to point out our officers here that have really, from what we were talking about, in talking to some of the people here at the Thomas & Mack, saying that they've really done a great job of keeping things orderly, keeping them calm, and just keeping them aware of what's going on with the situation here. I know you're watching some video right now of just the repetitive gunfire, and we were talking to people who were at the concert, the festival rather, speaking to that and just the fear that came over them when they were hearing this happening. And in fact, I think we have some sound right now that we can play, if I'm not mistaken, from my producer, from an interview that I did earlier when I was here at the Thomas & Mack. I don't know if we have that sound. It looks like we don't. It's kind of a fluid situation here, but I did speak with a couple that was at that festival saying that as soon as they heard that gunfire, they were in the middle of the crowd. They just dug down, tried to protect each other and keep each other safe. They actually ran from the venue about a mile, they estimate, give or take. Then someone actually opened their car door, said, "Jump in and we'll take you to the Thomas & Mack." That's what we're talking about, people stepping up and really helping people in this desperate situation. And, you know, like I said, it's really reassuring to hear those stories, knowing that so many people are trying to help others, considering everything that's going on right now and just everybody trying to come together as a community. So, Dana, I will continue to monitor the situation here. It has died down quite a bit, but we had seen kind of people still trickling up the escalator there, but not too many people. Most people have boarded the buses or either gotten on taxis and Uber and have gone back to their respective locations. So we'll continue to keep an eye on the situation, and we'll definitely keep you informed. I'm Crystal Allen from the Thomas & Mack Center. Let's go ahead and send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, if you can find any eyewitnesses to this shooting, of course, we'd love to hear from them this morning. This is the mass shooting that took place at about 10:08 last night. A lone gunman opening fire on a crowd of 22,000 people. Metro just updating us with a news release from minutes ago, now saying 406 people have been injured in this shooting. Heather Mills now joins us live from Metro headquarters with the latest on this one. And I know Sheriff Joe Lombardo expected to hold a news conference here at any moment.
Actually, Dana, as you're speaking, he's walking up to the microphone now, so I'm going to go ahead and point the camera that direction, if you will, so we can take this live. Few minutes? Okay. All right. Just a few minutes here. I'll go ahead and talk to you, Dana, and kind of let you know what we know so far. Just hearing the undersheriff talk to our counterpartner over there, CNN, saying that the shooter was shooting across Las Vegas Boulevard. And so what that meant was that victims were running in multiple directions. Undersheriff Kevin McMahill describing it as pandemonium and very difficult to figure out where everyone was going because they were scattering when those shots began ringing out. Dana, I heard you mention a lot of people are reporting that the shooter was found with 8 guns. I assume that we will find that confirmation, that number here from the sheriff in moments. But the undersheriff telling CNN just moments ago he's not willing to confirm or ready to confirm that exact number quite yet. So multiple guns, but not ready to confirm the number as being 8. So again, do want to talk about that. Also talking about the number of first responders that were on the scene The undersheriff saying, you know, they did act heroically, but right now isn't the time yet to worry about that. Right now they're still worrying about the victims in the hospital. They're still dealing with the tragedy that unfolded on the Strip overnight and the things that are still developing there as that continues, as that investigation continues. And we're finding that it is such a fluid situation here with so many developments coming in. Just learning that 406 people have been taken to area hospitals, 50 killed in the shooting, being labeled as the worst mass shooting now in U.S. history. That unfolding last night during the Route 91 Harvest Festival. The shooter identified as a 64-year-old man from Mesquite, Nevada. That's about 80 miles away from Las Vegas. If you're not familiar, it's right off the 15 north. The shooter being identified as a lone wolf. They're at this point not giving it any ties to terrorism, but as we have learned, this investigation is moving quickly, and there are certainly a lot of developments. Right now, press is gathering, getting ready for this press conference with Sheriff Joe Lombardo of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We will be taking that live here in just moments. The FBI and also city officials joining us, as well as some first responders. I'm going to go ahead and switch the camera over that direction as we prepare to get ready, Dana, for this press conference.
Okay, Heather, and as soon as you have that news conference with Sheriff Joe Lombardo, we will immediately go to you live to hear exactly what the sheriff has to say. But we understand from CNN at least 8 guns, a number of long rifles were found in the shooter's room. We understand that Joe Lombardo is holding a news conference right now. So we are efforting to get this. Obviously, the audio. Heather Mills is on the scene there at Metro headquarters this morning, but we still can't hear. I wonder if Heather could bring her microphone over to where the sheriff is speaking right now. Obviously, he's waiting to make sure that all the news organizations from here in town, now we're starting to get some audio from the scene. We're making sure that all the news organizations from here in town, but across the world, Las Vegas is the center of the news world today. And the sheriff has been updating us about every 2 hours, and this is a very fluid situation. Shooting happening at 10:08 last night, and we have been getting new information almost by the minute into the newsroom. At least 406 people now injured, we believe, sent to local hospitals, 50 killed, including an off-duty Metro officer, another on-duty officer sustaining non-life-threatening wounds. He was in critical condition earlier. Now he's been upgraded to stable condition, the on-duty Metro officer that was hit by gunfire. But a chaotic scene in what NBC News is calling the largest mass shooting in United States history, with 50 killed. The death toll on that is expected to go higher. And this is Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who has been up all night covering this story and obviously trying to figure out the motive behind this mass shooting. Daily Mail did speak to the brother of the shooter, Eric Paddock, and Eric Paddock told the Daily Mail that he had no indication his brother could do something like this. There was no political or religious affiliation, so he believes that his brother just snapped. The shooter in this, Stephen Paddock, his wife, has been taken into custody. Metro is interviewing her now, trying to find out, one, if she was involved in any way in this, but also, number two, trying to figure out the motivation behind this shooting. Here's the sheriff.
Update associated with the events that took place earlier tonight. Just a matter of recall. At 10 p.m. Last night, we started receiving calls of an active shooter at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, located adjacent to the Mandalay Bay Resort. We were receiving information that there was an active shooter that was firing rounds from the 32nd floor, and that individuals that were attending the festival, the number is estimated to be 22,000, were being struck by those rounds. Currently, the Clark County Fire Department is estimating the injuries to be well over 400, and the deaths associated with this event to be over 50. I can't give you an exact number yet because we're still investigating some of the areas involving the event where the concert was taking place, and we're still exiting individuals that were hidden, and it's just a matter of a process. So it's going to take quite a while for us to completely get through the evacuation phase, and then eventually we will have an assessment on the injuries associated with that. Now our suspect was identified as Stephen Craig Paddock, 64 years old, a white male from Mesquite, Nevada. We have no investigative information or background associated with this individual that is derogatory. The only thing we can tell is he received a citation several years ago, and that citation was handled as a matter of normal practice in the court system. Some important things that I need to get out. The family reunification still is taking place here at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department headquarters. So any individuals that are looking for answers for their family members or friends are welcome to come here, and we will provide that information as we get it. The FBI is vital in the assistance of this investigation. As a matter of help, they are providing a 1-800 number, which is 1-800-CALL-FBI. So as the matter of the number is 1-800-225-5324. Now that number is to be utilized for any and all information, especially video information or evidence that we can provide the FBI, and they will be the housing of all that critical information. So if you have anybody that has knowledge through your media sources and they want to provide that information, that's the avenue to go. Once they receive an individual on the other side of the line, they'll walk them through the process, and then we'll get them to the online version so they can download that information. Additionally, the coroner's office, as I repeated before, has set up a number for individuals to call, and that number is 1-866-535-5654. That is for individuals that do not have the ability to come down to the headquarters to discuss their family and friends in person. Now the other critical piece associated with this and any mass casualty event is the need for blood. So United Blood Services have their services set up currently. They are receiving patients or donors at 6930 West Charleston and 601 Whitney Ranch in Henderson. So if you have the ability to donate blood to help the cause, please do so. Additionally, the Laborers Union is offering their facility, their medical facility at 7135 West Sahara for individuals that want to donate blood. And as always, UMC has a pod set up for individuals to go to UMC to donate blood. And that will be the gist of the updates at this time. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sheriff, can you talk about what the scene was like in that room when your officers walked inside?
We believe the individual killed himself prior to our entry.
How many weapons was he found with?
We are still going through the search warrant actively at this time, but it's in excess of 10 rifles.
What's the status of Mary Lou Danley?
I'm sorry?
The woman?
We have located her out of the country. She was not with him when he checked in. We have discovered he was utilizing some of her identification, and we've had conversation with her, and we believed her at this time not to be involved. But obviously that will be, that investigation will continue. As far as his residence in Mesquite, we have officers now there serving a search warrant.
Anything yielded by that search warrant at his home at this point?
No, we just made entry just a matter of minutes ago. So that's going to be quite some time. We're going to clear the residence first for any possible explosives. So that'll be slow and methodical, and it'll take us quite some time before we conduct the search phase.
Mary Lou Danley, you said she was found out of the country. Did you guys find any weapons on her?
No, ma'am. I don't know what has taken place as far as the interview with her. Okay, I think it's important for you to notice who's standing behind me. We have Chief Greg Castle. I'm sorry. I always get caught up with your family. Greg Castle has been integral in the saving of lives. They paired up with our officers out at the scene, and I think their actions and heroic acts were instrumental in saving several hundred lives associated with this event. And then you have our Attorney General, Adam Laxalt. He's brought forth his office to help us in any future prosecution associated with the case. And you have the Special Agent in Charge, Aaron Rausch of the FBI. As I mentioned, the FBI has been standing next to us from the very first minute, and they are providing all the resources available to the federal government to help us in this endeavor. And then you have the Clark County Commission Chairman, Steve Sisolak. He has been instrumental in getting us resources to the first responders as far as refreshments and food and support of the entire county commission. I have been on the phone the entire night with the mayor, Carolyn Goodman, and she responded to UMC to check on the patients, and she is in the process of visiting the other hospitals and showing the support of the city. And then obviously we have our Congressman Reuben Kuhn. He is in town to also show us our support. So any other questions of the members standing before you? Yes, ma'am.
I know at one point you said this was not terror related. Some people do argue that this is a case of domestic terrorism. How do you differentiate this to people at home?
Well, we have to establish what his motivation is first, and there's motivating factors associated with terrorism other than a distraught person just intending to cause mass casualty. Before we label with that, it'll be a matter of process.
Have you found any information at this point that could yield insight into what that motive was?
No, we have not. No, we have not. We have not located any items within the room or his house at this point.
Was there any verbal commands or orders given?
Yes, ma'am. It was a matter of normal practice. And whenever we use a dynamic entry.
Sheriff, was there anything else in the hotel room that made you think, aside from the number of weapons, that made you think he had been there for a while? Or
No, we have information he's been there since the 28th of September. So I have no idea as whether he prevented the housekeepers from entering the room or not. That's just a matter of continued investigation. All right, thank you very much. We'll provide you an update probably in the next 2 hours. Thank you.
Sheriff Joe Lombardo giving an update to the collected media at UMC headquarters this morning. Our Heather Mills is also at that location. Faith Jesse is located at UMC for us this morning. Craig Figner's on the Las Vegas Strip. Crystal Allen at the Thomas and Mack Center, and Kim Wagner also on the Strip for us this morning. But Heather, you just heard the news conference there. Motive is the big question this morning, and he didn't offer many clues into the motive of this shooter.
Yeah, indeed. He did not. He said right now there is no known motive. They've got to sort through all of that, figure it out. You also heard that that individual, Stephen Paddock, had been checked into the Mandalay Bay since the 28th, so he'd been there several days. As for the number of weapons found with him, the sheriff saying at least 10 weapons found in that room. And I do want to kind of reiterate once again, I asked the status of the woman, you know, that had somehow been connected to him, Marilou Danley. She has been located out of the country. They've questioned her, and at this point he's saying it doesn't sound like she had any connection whatsoever to what was occurring, that he may have used some of her identification when perhaps, I don't know, checking into that room, so that she's not actually here. She is out of the country. They also gave a number of information regarding numbers that family members can contact. I know we've been giving that out all morning as far as family members calling that 866 number, which I'm sure we probably have at the bottom of the screen. If not, I know we've all been tweeting it out. Also, if you have any information from the FBI number is different. This is the number that you will call if you have information that might help them along this investigation, because the FBI really going to be taking some of the reins here as far as what happened here at 10:08 last night on the Las Vegas Strip. Let me give you that number. If you are sitting at home and you have video, you have information, you've talked to someone who might be able to help out, the number is 1-800-225-5324. Again, learning just a little bit more about this individual, learning that it looks like he may have killed himself before police made entry into that room, that he had as many as 10 weapons on him. Stephen Paddock, 64 years old, from Mesquite. Also learning that right now police are executing that search warrant on his residence in Mesquite, about 80 miles north east outside of Las Vegas, and hopefully with that they'll be able to find out a little bit more information, perhaps delving into what caused this man to do this, because he had been checked into that hotel for days prior to this country music festival, which did begin on Friday. It was a 3-day music festival. Also knowing now that more than 400 people have been injured, at least 50 people were killed in this shooting that's now being called the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. And, you know, the other thing that I do want to mention, one thing that we had heard over and over again, and I think we see this a lot when these type of events occur, is that there's a lot of misinformation out there on social media. There's a lot of misinformation on the web. So just be careful when you are looking. If you are looking for information regarding a family member or a friend who is missing, you need to get in contact with that 866 number or come here to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Headquarters. We are located here at the corner of MLK and Alta in Las Vegas. So Dana, for now, reporting live at Las Vegas Metro Headquarters. I'm Heather Mills, sending it back to you in the studio. As soon as more information comes in, of course, we'll be the first one to bring it to you.
You're watching News 3 today in our continued coverage of the largest mass shooting in United States history. This took place on the Las Vegas Strip at about 10 o'clock last night, just 8 hours ago, and a lot of you are just waking up to this news for the first time. So we will give you a recap of what happened last night just 8 hours ago. A gunman with automatic weapons opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, spraying 22,000 concert goers with bullets, killing at least 50 people. More than 406 were injured. Among the dead, an off-duty Metro officer. Another on-duty officer is in stable condition in the hospital. People attending the Route 91 Country Music Festival directly across Las Vegas Boulevard from the Luxor. Country music star Jason Aldean, about midway through his set, just after 10 p.m. when the bullets began flying. Some eyewitnesses say the bullets came raining down on them for about 20 minutes. The shooter only stopping to reload, people taking cover any place they could find. Police eventually found the shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Sources say they used an explosive device to knock the door down, and when they entered, they found that the shooter was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He has been identified as Stephen Paddock out of Mesquite, living in a retirement community in Mesquite. His wife has been located out of the country. Her name, Mary Lou Danley. They do not believe that Mary Lou Danley was involved in any way in the shooting, at least not at this time. So the moment that we have feared for more than a decade has finally come to fruition on the Las Vegas Strip. 6:07 now, and right now let's check in with Tom Hawley. So we have a lot of closures in that area. The perimeter is very large around this crime scene as they collect evidence. This thing also stopped flights at McCarran Airport for a while as well.
It did. McCarran saying that about 24 flights that were destined to Las Vegas detoured while they were still trying to find out what's going on. Operations have resumed at McCarran, but they are cautioning to call ahead if you're heading out to the airport to make sure that your airplane is going to be on time, because even if it wasn't one of the ones that was delayed, sometimes these things have a ripple effect that spreads outwards towards other planes. You're looking here at a Rio camera view of Flamingo Road and Strip. Now, it looks like everything's normal here, so the closure is not extended as far north up Las Vegas Boulevard as Flamingo, and it looks like the main activity is right around the area from Tropicana down to Sunset. It's Tropicana and 15, traffic proceeding along just fine to get on and off of the 15. We've also seen a few cars over here on Frank Sinatra Drive, though I'm not seeing any of right this second here. So that's that frontage road which goes behind. It's probably not going to get you all the way down to Mandalay Bay. The area that we're talking about up here on the map, you can see the traffic flow patterns resumed here on I-15, not on Tropicana. You aren't getting traffic between Tropicana and the Strip on in that area of Tropicana. Russell Road not the way to go instead, so you have to move up to Flamingo or go way down and use Blue Diamond Road instead. And also we'll note that this is the area where it all took place. The shooting taking place in Mandalay Bay, catty corner from the Route 195 Harvest. That is the Las Vegas Festival Event Center. So that is where it took place. This whole area here shut down from Tropicana down not just to Russell, but all the way to Sunset For an alternate route, you can move to Decatur. I'd suggest giving it long distance because a lot of people are looking for alternate routes. And as far as going to work on the Strip, might even want to check with the employer to make sure your services are needed today. A lot of work taking place at the Thomas and Mack, too, where some people have been transported in the immediate aftermath. So you could use Swenson Paradise, that one-way couplet. I'd suggest going further away using Maryland Parkway or Eastern. And as we look down here, it looks like the barricade's still up here at Sunset Road and Las Vegas Boulevard. Metro Police telling Kim Wagner they have no idea. And Dana, these things, hours just on a normal investigation, this is anything but normal. Would not surprise me if this closure lasts all the way through into the day, maybe even tomorrow. We'll just have to keep checking back.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. We have Phil Ramos, a retired detective from Metro, here in the studio just about a half hour ago, and he said that this will be a very wide net early on, and then they will contract as they gather information and evidence from this mass shooting that happened just across the street from the Luxor on the Las Vegas Strip. Withering gunfire, people at the scene, eyewitnesses, estimating that it happened for about 20 minutes, almost continuously. And we heard from Sheriff Joe Lombardo telling us that the shooter had at least 10 rifles, and you can tell by the gunfire, some of these, maybe all of them, were automatic weapons. And this is new footage that we're getting into the newsroom for the first time. It looks like we have some injured on the screen, injured people on the screen right now. I'm just seeing this for the first time into the newsroom, and other people hunkering down, trying to take cover wherever they could, but there just wasn't much cover there. This is an outdoor concert. 22,000 people were attending this Jason Aldean performance last night at 10:08 when that gunfire rang out, but people trying to duck behind anything they could at the time. Kim Wagner now joins us. You are located less than a mile from the scene, as close as you could get. You're at Sunset and Las Vegas Boulevard, unless you've changed locations, Kim.
No, we're at Las Vegas Boulevard and Sunset, exactly what you said. I'm going to give you a scene setter, and we do have new developments since the last time we checked in with you. But I want to show you the flow of traffic through this location now. No one is getting down this. Want to show you the flow of traffic through this location now. No one is getting down this way on the boulevard, but they are letting people across right here. And this is pretty much the corner of Town Square, so you can orient yourself. You see people who are setting up and doing live reports all around me. We have our friend here with the Associated Press who's getting ready to do a live report. I'm going to have Brad, who's doing a terrific job, swing it around and show you the media from all across the globe that is set up at this location. This is as close as you can get to the actual shooting site, which is why we have been able to talk with people as they exit the site. I just talked with a family from the United Kingdom who were on a helicopter tour. As they were landing, they were hearing the shots ringing out from the country music festival. They were very shaken up, but they were able to, after doing their police interview, walk down to this location where I am right now, and they were able to get a taxi from this location. You're going to hear from them once we're able to what's called feedback that video to the station, but we just got it. I also talked with a man who is a worker at Bali High. That is the golf course just on the other side of Mandalay Bay. So as you're looking down this live location right now, it would be right there on the left before you enter Mandalay Bay. So that is where Bali High is. He can't get to work, doesn't know what to do. As for the officers on the scene, I heard Tom Hawley reiterating that they're in the same holding pattern that we're in. We don't know when this intersection is going to be back open to the public because we are now dealing with the deadliest mass shooting in United States history. So the size and scope of this investigation is quite large, as you have been doing a terrific job explaining throughout the broadcast. And for people who are just now waking up and turning on their TV sets, we want to take you inside the event last night as people were just running for their lives.
So there was a lady who pushed her way forward into the concert venue into the first row, and she started messing with another lady and told us that we are all going to die tonight.
So that is some of what we are getting into the newsroom this morning as far as people on scene as this was happening. And as you continue to get updates from Metro. We're also going to get them out here from this location. But right now, I've heard the phone number, and I shared it at 4:45 in the morning. They want people to call if they have concerns about loved ones, and that is because they don't want everyone flooding University Medical Center, where we find right now our Faith Jesse standing by with an update on the injured and also loss of life. And Faith, you rightly pointed out earlier in the broadcast that University Medical Center is the only level 1 trauma center that we have here in Southern Nevada, and I think it's safe to say that they have been inundated with this mass shooting event.
Good morning, Kim. A lot of shock and chaos from inside of the hospital is what I'm hearing after speaking with a couple of people. Number one, on the UMC side, who have been working to help families calm down, and then another person who was there because her friend was shot. Her name was Rosie. She told me that she left really moments before Jason took the stage to perform because she wanted to go gambling, and then she gets a phone call saying, "I've been shot." She says that her friend had to wait 4 hours to get any attention because there are just so many people here. We're hearing that over 400 people had to be taken to the hospital. Most of them are here because of that level 1 trauma status. Other people I've heard have been taken to Sunrise. And there's a couple of things you should know if you guys are just waking up this morning to hear this information. We're told that if you have a friend or family that was at that concert and you're worried about their condition, please call around to other family members first before coming straight to the hospital. They're asking you all to do that to help out with the foot traffic because there has just been so many people coming in and out. They are, at first, I know around 11 o'clock this evening, they had closed off all of the roads because this was still a crime scene, even though this was a hospital. They've backed off a little bit, opened up some roads to give people access to come in and out so that they can get to their friends and family. There's also one other piece of information that we are hearing. There's going to be a blood drive this morning at 7 o'clock. That's going to be taking place 2 locations, 6930 West Charleston in Las Vegas or 601 Whitney Ranch Drive in Henderson. That is taking place at 7 a.m. Another blood drive ran by UMC will take place sometime this morning at, let's see, their Delta Point building. That's 901 North Rancho Lane. They have not disclosed what time that'll be taking place, but for all of you out there that are interested in helping, that's one big thing you can do. I'm Faith Jesse reporting. News 3.
It's all hands on deck at UMC, Sunrise, any hospital taking these victims. There's more than 400 of them in local hospitals as we speak in various condition this morning. Some of these are life-threatening injuries, and 50 people, an estimated 50 people, have already been killed by this lone gunman. That death toll is expected to go up. And right there, blood donations, bloodhero.com. You can go to that site to find ways that you can help. Daily Mail interviewed the shooter's brother. The shooter identified as Stephen Paddock. The brother, Eric Paddock, telling the Daily Mail that he had no indication his brother could do this. Also telling the Daily Mail that his brother had no political or religious affiliation. He is stunned by this mass shooting. So as they try to unravel the mystery of the motive here, police have entered Stephen Paddock's home in the Mesquite area, but they are going very carefully this morning, concerned that his home may be booby-trapped. So it is a methodical search. They're hoping to find answers inside the shooter's home in Mesquite. And you can see some of the social media postings from earlier on this morning, a chaotic scene, as you can imagine, as people were scrambling for cover. Initially, most people thought they were just firecrackers, some fireworks of some sort going off, but they quickly realized as people were dropping that this was a shooter identified as Stephen Paddock firing from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Sheriff Joe Lombardo telling us that he had more than 10 rifles in his possession at the time. When police eventually entered his room, Stephen Paddock was dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We also know there have been families reunited here, concerned families out there early this morning. This is the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign. As people were finding out that their family members were safe from the shooter, but many other families waking up on this Monday morning to find that their family members were killed or are in the hospital this morning. This is one of the reunions that we spotted at the Thomas and Mack Center. Many people who were enjoying the festival at the time of the shooting were taken to the Thomas and Mack Center, a staging area. Some of the people, as you can see, getting off buses at that location. Jason Aldean was performing at the time, and he sent this out on Instagram with a caption, "Tonight has been beyond horrific. I still don't know what to say, but wanted to let everyone know that me and my crew are safe. My thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved tonight. It hurts my heart that this would happen to anyone who was just coming out to enjoy what should have been a very fun night." So the moment we have feared for more than a decade has finally come to our community. NBC News reporting the largest mass shooting in United States history taking place on the Las Vegas Strip just about 8 hours ago. We're going to take a quick time out, and we'll be right back. .621, we continue to follow the breaking news on News 3 today. Many of you have been with us for hours, for 8 hours. This happened at 10:08 last night, but for those of you just waking up this morning, a quick recap. A gunman with automatic weapons opening fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, spraying 22,000 concert goers with bullets. They were there attending a music festival across the street from Mandalay Bay. At least 50 people have been killed. 406 have been injured. They are in local hospitals as we speak. NBC News reporting this as the largest mass shooting in United States history. And you can hear the withering gunfire in the background. Lone gunman opening fire. He was found in that room in the Mandalay